What is going on? Welcome to everyone. Keith, how are you, my man?
Yo, today's the best day of my life, man. How you doing?
Amazing. Same here. So I'll throw it back to you. Please intro our awesome guest, and I'll say what up to everyone in the chat.
We got Kyle in the house with us today. Kyle, how are you, man?
I'm great, guys. Thanks for having me.
Of course, of course.
Absolutely. So Kyle, talk to us a little bit about, like, first off, how long have you been on YouTube for?
So YouTube, I guess I think it was 2021, but I've been having this constant kind of identity thing, and just trying to figure out what works for me, and so it was crazy. In 2021, I didn't really know how hard it was to grow a YouTube channel. So when I would go in and make a video and I get like 1,000 subs that day or something, I didn't think anything of it, actually. I thought, like, well, I guess this is just the way it is, and then, now we have had extensive apathy in the market, and, it's really hard for me to gain subs right now. Really appreciate those days, but I was also inconsistent early on for a couple years. And so I think that I've been consistent for about 2 years, and minus like a 2-week break that I had over the new year. But I'm still trying to, it's an interesting game. Still trying to adapt and figure out what it is that people want, and what to talk about. And then also, just fully transparently, is like I can spend an entire day making a YouTube video, or I can spend 45 minutes or an hour, and it's just like, what's the ROI in the current position? Because I'm doing a lot of other things besides making YouTube videos. I
For sure.
running a couple businesses, a fund, and just trying to focus on health and stuff like that too. So, it's also just an ROI question of, does it make sense to spend a lot of time making YouTube videos right now? And
For sure.
or is it trying to kind of narrow it down and give, since it's not a lot happening right now. I mean, if you're looking at price anyway, I think there's a lot happening in the world, and so I've kind of, it's just like, how do I give my viewers constant updates of what's kind of what do they want to hear and what do they want to see right now? So, yeah, 4 years, I guess. No, yeah, 4 or 5 years now for the YouTube channel, and yeah.
We'll talk about all the other stuff you're doing too. I think some of that will be probably a lot more interesting as well. And so, what's up to everybody in the chat? Just wanted to say hello. I see Pastor Blackwood with us. We got Brian the nurse coming through from LA. What's up? What's up? Ernest in the building. Louis. Bet on Chris. Just want to say what's up to everybody in the chat real quick.
Sweet.
So thanks for talking about that a little bit. Are you a trader? Is that like your main kind of thing?
No, I don't
Okay.
trade. I don't personally trade at all. But so you guys have probably seen it too. And maybe you have some, I don't know, but there's a lot of times that someone comes along and says, oh, I'm running this trading bot or this algorithm and it's doing fantastic and whatever. So 2 times in the history of my crypto career, which has been since 2012, I've given physically, Bitcoin to different people who promised some sort of return. And in both those previous instances, they both literally went to zero. And that has been just, catastrophe. So I never really thought I would actually even do it again. Sometimes in a clearly directional market, let's say we're definitely in a bull run and everything kind of goes up. Yeah, I'll mess around with futures at that point a little bit, gamble. It's gambling, but it's like much easier to do in a directionally, bullish market. So what I do now and what I've been doing for 10 months is, there's a company called Sequence, and Trade with Sequence is the website. And they've been great. Like, so I run a couple different strategies there with them. One is a Bitcoin accumulation strategy. So this is for Bitcoiners that just want to hold their Bitcoin and they're not really interested so much in altcoins, and they don't really care what the dollar value is. They've got like a 10-year time horizon, and for them, just stacking sats is the ultimate goal. And so this is a fantastic way to stack sats. The way the algorithm works is is it just trades on like 1.5 times leverage. And in the 10 months I've been running it, I've never lost a trade. For the algorithm, previous gains don't equal future gains necessarily, but it's a very conservative trading model. And in the 10 months, I've gotten 15% on my Bitcoin. So I started with 1, now I've got 1.15. And they just introduced a new one that is actually a little bit more aggressive, that has a stop loss built in. I think it's like 2.5x leverage. And they're promising not promising, but they're saying they back tested and been testing it for a couple months, and it's been getting much better returns. So I put another Bitcoin in there, trying that strategy now. Just started 3 days ago. And then the other one is a USD accumulation, where they trade spot for XRP, Doge, Solana. That might be it. And that's gotten me, over this past 10 months, has gotten me a 30% return on my stable. So I just let them run it, and I like the way that's set up. By the way, this is not like a sponsored thing or anything. It's just, I use it and it's been fantastic.
You might have to go negotiate one in retrospect here.
Well, I do. So if anyone wants to use affiliate link, go to my YouTube channel and check in the description, and you'll get, so the way that they work is that they only get paid if you get paid, right? If you make money. So, you open up your Blowfin or your Bybit account, you give them API access to trade. They can't withdraw your assets. They can't do anything with them like that. They can't transfer, but they can trade. And so if you make profit, then they take, if you're not using my affiliate code, they take 30%. If you use my code, they take 25%. And then they just send you an invoice at the end of the month. So if you don't pay the invoice, then they stop trading for you, and they lose out on a little bit of income there. But if you do pay it, they keep trading for you. So it's really, it's a good aligned method where you don't have to give them access to your Bitcoin or your USD. So anyway, that's how I do trade. And it's fantastic. 10 months in a market, especially like the USD one, was quite surprising, because if I had just left money in altcoins, it'd be down significantly. But instead, I'm up 30% over the last 10 months, So it's been really cool to do that. I wanted to test it for a long time before, really talking about it a lot. And so it's been 10 months, March 10th, a little over 10 months. March 10th will be a year. And I've already, so I'm about to commit quite a bit more. I'm going to double, triple down on all my different trading mechanisms, or the different accounts. So every time you do a new account, like you open a sub account on one of your accounts, and you can start the Bitcoin accumulation strategy or the USD strategy or whatever. So that's how I trade. I tried trading before myself. I don't want to take the time. I don't want to be a full-time trader. To me, it's like, it's a lot of stress. It's very expensive to learn. And yeah, if you get really good at it, you can be that 1% or whatever that actually makes money, and you can make a whole career out of it. And for those who are good at it, fantastic. But the reality is that most people just don't make money doing it. So
let's talk about that a little bit, because one of the things that I feel like you probably are a sat stacker, right? Kind of living in some form toward a Bitcoin standard. So what do you think people get wrong about like looking at this trading thing and trying to use that as a way to make money and be super rich versus the real point of Bitcoin?
Yeah. So I'm not really like, I'm not actually like, I would say that my Bitcoin is kind of my reserve. It is my reserve. It's like, it's a thing that if everything else goes to shit, I think that that's going to do okay, and or do well over the long term. And I try to, and with the Bitcoin, I tried it. I'm glad that this Bitcoin accumulation strategy was presented, and it's been working well, and I hope it continues to do so. But I only have about, of my liquid assets, I have about 40% in Bitcoin. I've got about 40% in ETH, and the rest I have in speculative altcoins. And I made some investments in equity as well. We have a platform called Wealth, WLTH.xyz, and I've been going pretty heavy in there because I think that 2026 and 2027 is going to be a big year for IPOs, and I like the idea of being able to get a 2, 3, 4, 5x or whatever. I'm not, the 100x times of altcoin seasons are fantastic and they do come around, but they're like realistic types of returns. If you can get 2x in a year, 3x in a year, it's fantastic. And so on Wealth, we do a lot of pre-IPO opportunities, and I love the platform. I'm one of the co-founders, but I actually use it on a regular basis myself. And there's constantly awesome deals. Like I invested in SpaceX back at 198 billion or something. I think that thing is a multi-trillion-dollar company in the next 5 years or whatever that is. I got to invest in Anthropic at quite a low valuation as well, and that's just been crushing. We invested in a nuclear deal, in nuclear energy, and that's just been really, like, every time I watch TV, YouTube, anything like that, all of the guys are saying our biggest bottleneck right now is power. And then Trump ripped off all the regulation from the nuclear industry. And so the first people to market, not even the first, every nuclear provider that can get NRC, the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, sign off is going to absolutely explode over the next 10 years. Like, there's a need for power. Elon's plan of like building a Dyson, what is it, like a Dyson swarm around the sun to harness the sun's energy. Like, that's great and fantastic and very efficient once you get there. But I don't think we're getting there in the next 10 years or whatever. But anyway, so the nuclear deal that we invested into is going to go public this month, and we got a 17x on that one. So I do have capital over there in some deals, but so that's kind of how my portfolio is spread out. Yeah.
Heard. Totally, man. So not Bitcoin only, it's trying to generate wealth, keep wealth, grow it in whatever vehicle you can use for that. That's something that you're going to participate in. With that, when you look at the cycles that Bitcoin has typically run through in the past, do you feel like, first off, do you believe in the 4-year cycle? Do you think that that's more about liquidity? I think we talked a little bit about that on your pod. And how many of those have you gone through? Do you think we still have a normal 4-year cycle going on?
Yeah. So, I started playing around with Bitcoin in 2012, but I really accumulated in 2013. And, in the early days, it wasn't worth much money. I had a consulting company before called the Reverse Aging Institute that I sold to a guy from the Middle East. He wanted to open a anti-aging center in Beverly Hills or whatever. He loved my branding. So I spent like 30 or 40K. That's like the last money that I'd had at the time, and put it into branding and making a cool branding video and stuff. And I was able to sell that for like 120K. So, but with that money, I bought Bitcoin in 2013. And so that still wasn't a whole lot at the time, but over the years, it became more. The point is that I left the fiat standard in 2013, and I had a bunch of Bitcoin, in the couple thousand area in 2013, and now I'm down to significantly less than that because I've been spending it the whole time to do startups, for investments. In hindsight, just getting a job at McDonald's and holding that Bitcoin would have been the best thing to do. But I've had a ton of learning experience, and I like that. I'm okay with what happened. I bought a Harley in 2015 for my birthday for myself, and it was 14.5 Bitcoin, but I was just stoked that I could pay with Bitcoin. It's like the pizza guy. He doesn't regret spending his 10,000 Bitcoin. It's just the way that things were back then, hindsight. Yeah, of course we should have held on to it, but it's enabled me to live off Bitcoin since then, and that's been quite nice. I don't believe that the 4-year cycle was ever the 4-year cycle, not anyway in the way that we perceived it to be, like based off the halving narrative. I did actually a bunch of extensive research on this, and it seems to have always been driven by the liquidity cycle. And so I think it was a coincidence that we had this halving cycle that kind of, for some reason, aligned perfectly with the 4-year halving narrative. But everything seems different, right? So, you know, and then the 4-year cyclists would argue that someone like me would always say, oh, every 4-year cycle says this feels different. And they would say that we're 4-year cycle's intact and we're now in a bear market. But if our pullback is only 35%, you know, maybe it gets worse than that. Maybe we go to 70K or something like that. Maybe get pulled back 40, 45%. But I don't see a world where we go back all the way to an 80% correction. And there's just too much happening there. And I think what's happening now is we're just we're waiting for, we just ended quantitative tightening, right? We were in a restrictive environment since the end of 2021. So what killed the bull market in 2021 was the fact that they announced QT, and we had hot inflation, all the kind of things that we're looking that maybe we might see in the next, you know, 6 to 24 months or something. Low inflation, low rates, inflation starting to peak back up, money printing. You know, there's just no way that they're going to stop spending. They can't. And so 2021, we saw the beginning of QT. December 2025, the end of QT. And now we're in this transitioning zone where, you know, we're looking at, you know, Trump's been very vocal about lower rates. He gets to appoint the guy that sits at the Fed chair, you know, and we could even see markets are forward looking. So we could even see that this guy, the next Fed chair, whoever it is nominated and then confirmed. And then once he's confirmed, he makes his speech and he gives this kind of tone of voice for, is he directionally dovish or hawkish? But that could really set the tone for 2026. You know, what direction is the Fed going to be, and the mindset of the Fed moving throughout this? Are they in line with getting, you know, Trump's desired at or near 1% interest rates? And then we have things kicking in, like the big beautiful bill, now law, that was concluded in 2025, comes into effect, I think it was January 1st of this year. So that spending is going to start happening now. And the spending includes things like tax rebates and tax discounts. Trump's all over there saying that this is going to be the biggest kind of tax rebate year that the world has ever seen. We don't know that's true yet, because he also promised these $2,000 tax rebates are basically stimmy checks that now he seems to have forgotten that he mentioned them. So
Saw that, yeah.
so we can only kind of speculate on what's going to happen moving forward. But from what it seems, you know, you got just crazy spending. GDP growth is forecasted to hit, you know, probably 5% plus by the end of the year, which is nuts. So that just creates more spending, more money in the system, you know, better confidence in markets. And I think that we're moving, you know, we're going to follow this liquidity cycle. So that's the most important thing to watch right now, is just like, you know, what's happening on global M2, US M2, you know, bond markets, things like that. So I'm cautiously optimistic about this year. And it doesn't feel good to be all in crypto right now when equities and metals are ripping. But I think that it's always, Bitcoin and crypto has always been a story about patience, and only truly rewards those who can endure times like this, where the markets are completely apathetic and everyone thinks that crypto is dead. And it's very much not. You know, I mean, a lot of people point to stable coins. That's cool. And I think that'll help with people to understand how digital assets work, including altcoins and Bitcoin stuff. But it feels so quiet right now and so dead. And historically, these have been the best times to buy, you know? So could Bitcoin go lower? Yep. You know, maybe, I don't know. I guess the ultimate low would probably be somewhere around last season's all-time high, 65, 69,000, whatever. I'm okay with that. You know, if it does go back down to there, but it doesn't seem like there's so much more downside, at least for Bitcoin. Altcoins, I'm not really sure, but for Bitcoin, seems limited. And I think when you look back in a few years from now, buying around this time, being in the market at this time is probably the best time to be in it.
Totally. Yeah, there's so many good things going on behind the scenes that people in crypto would have begged for last cycle, and they're actually happening this cycle, and people are still so bearish. One thing I wanted to ask you, Kyle, was that you mentioned that you got big into Bitcoin in like 2013, pulled the trigger, bought a bunch. It wasn't a common thing to do back then, like nearly at all to what it is today. What gave you the conviction to do that?
Well, I have always, since I guess like a young teen and well into my teens, I was always watching films like The Zeitgeist and any kind of tinfoil hat thing you could watch. I was all over it. So I was mentally prepped for something like this to come along. I was just kind of waiting for it. And I knew, in The Zeitgeist, you have the whole chapter 3, is it, about Federal Reserve? And I was like, oh man, this doesn't seem right. Like, I should probably opt out of this, if there was a way to do that. And then Bitcoin came along and gave us a way to do that. And at the time in 2013, I thought like there's definitely a use case for this, even if it's just, at the time in my mind, like what I was thinking is like, even if it's just criminals, underworld, cartels, whatever, like there's a use case for this and it's still early. And so even if it just gets adopted on that level, like it's probably going to be still worth something. But the funny thing was, man, I didn't, everyone just, my point earlier about spending Bitcoin as I went along, for a long time, I don't think it was even until I started my YouTube channel that I really started thinking it as like a way to make money. I really didn't. I just thought like I can use Bitcoin and I'm going to start using Bitcoin at whoever will take it. And that's why I bought my Harley with it. And, always try to find any way I could just spend my Bitcoin and use that. And it was just because I liked the ideology of it, and it's taught me a lot through that time. But yeah, it wasn't common at all. My mindset was different than people. That's why you hear stories of people who had 10,000, 100,000 in 2010, 11, 12, 13, and they made a 2x on it and they thought it was fantastic. They sold and never looked back until 2017 or something like that. And they're like, man, that was a mistake. So again, I think that the trader attitude is, it's for a special type of person who wants to get extremely good at that, spend thousands of hours practicing on doing that, and then making that their career. To me, what I think is the best is trying to stack more Satoshis, stack more sats, Bitcoin, but buy and hold, right? Like my altcoins that I have, they're all kind of high conviction plays. I could be wrong, but they're things that will go up most likely over the next period of time. And so it's the altcoins and some of the investments I made in equity will likely do pretty well. I hope. And that's kind of what I'm planning for. And also like I sold a lot of Bitcoin to do a lot of investments in, I made investments in Kraken and in Coinbase, Ripple, Securitize, Circle, Bitfinex, and quite a few others back in like 2017, 18. So it wasn't the seed rounds of these things, but it was like the, Series A, Series B, Series C, whatever. And those have done, the ones that have gone public have done quite well. Coinbase was an awesome investment. But I spent like, I don't know, 25 grand in Bitcoin at the time to invest in Coinbase. So the ROI, like it would have been better holding just Bitcoin, but all this stuff gives me experience, lets me know how things work. I'm actually in the market, which is the best way to learn. And so I think I'm much more knowledgeable. My due diligence is like, for investing in deals is that bar is super high. And so I like it, and I like working with founders that have a really awesome mindset, doing something innovative. I like being able to talk to them one-on-one, have calls, and just understand what's going on and be along with the journey for them. That's exciting for me.
Amazing. You mentioned that you have a diverse portfolio, including some high conviction bets on altcoins. How do you get to a point where you see something as like a high conviction bet? Like what is your criteria or thesis when it comes to making those bigger bets?
Yeah, I guess it's really, is this team building something that I think is useful, disruptive, or just significantly better than the incumbent thing it's trying to disrupt? Or are they inventing something new due to the way that structurally our systems work differently with with AI coming into the picture? Like everyone who's watching this probably has heard of something like Claudebot already or something, right? This fully autonomous agent system that lives on its own computer and is your Jarvis, essentially, does anything you want for it, just can work 24 hours a day. So it's what's the idea, and then who's a team executing on it? Do they have experience or not? And in the nuclear deal, for example, the founder, he's 24 years old, and and he went to university, got a degree in engineering and nuclear engineering and stuff like that. But for me, it was more to see the team that he brought around him. They were all like senior badasses in their fields, all around, nuclear and stuff like that too. So I really enjoyed seeing that. And the biggest sticking point in nuclear is the regulatory approval. And so they hired the ex-director of the NRC to come onto the team. I was like, oh, it's fantastic. Like, not only will she have a bunch of connections back to the NRC, they're probably all her people, but also she knows exactly how to get things through the NRC, as she was the one who was, getting the approval or the denial before. So that was really good. And then there's one that's in the past few months, it's been like my biggest total gamble, but I would say it's pretty high conviction, but it's only for the real bold and the people who are really willing to take the risk and do research. I don't know if you guys have heard of Tibber, Tibbir?
It's news to me.
So there's an X account called Altcoinist, and if you just spend a couple hours going down through his threads and posts, and then clicking on some of his links and really diving into the whole backstory behind it. So I'll just give you guys a quick TLDR, and then I would encourage anyone. I'm definitely not telling the audience or you guys to go buy this thing, even though I've been heavily DCAing every single day. I buy like between $4,000 and $6,000 of it, and I'm just trying to keep stacking up. But the idea is that so Ribbit Capital is founded by Mickey Malka. He's a Venezuelan guy, fell in love with Bitcoin, fell in love with crypto, and his investment portfolio, the company has like 15 billion AUM. They saved Robinhood from essentially bankruptcy. They were, I think, the number 3 number 3 shareholder of Coinbase, investing in their Series D with a large check. They invested in Revolut and a bunch of other fintech companies. Their portfolio is insane. And so the idea is that they launched in January 2025 on Virtuals, just stealth quietly launched a token called Tibber, which is Ribbit backwards. Ribbit Capital backwards is Tibber. So that's the token ticker. And the thing that I'll preface all of this with is that there's never been a public acknowledgement from the Ribbit team or Mickey that this is their project. But there's been a ton of Easter eggs throughout the year on the relationship there. One of the, there's a few. First of all, it was the deployer contract was funded by Mickey's wallet himself. So Mickey.eth is the wallet that it's also the same wallet that holds CryptoPunks that we know belong to Mickey, and a few other NFTs of art and stuff like that. So it was actually funded by him. And then before the token launched, there was 5 LLCs set up under Mickey called Tibber, and one of them has a bunch of their Robinhood shares have been put in that trust. And then Ribbit Capital just last month made a video about their rebels, essentially, so their portfolio companies what they're building and how they're building token factories, and they're building all these agents and things like that. And in that video, which is a 4-part video, each clip is like 3 minutes long, there's Easter eggs inside of that video. And for me, one of the biggest giveaways was in that video, there was the Tibber mascot. There's a lady walking down the streets, it looks like Europe or something like that, narrow streets with shops on both sides. And one of the shops, you see the Tibber logo, and that's from a Ribbit Capital video. And that's a very distinctive, like that's for sure in their video, putting that in there. So, so there's a bunch more down the rabbit hole, a bunch more things that help me build conviction over time. There's way too many to talk about in this alone. But there's such a huge, successful, talented team of people over there that seem to have been building this infrastructure. And what it essentially, like what we do know, they also have an automated Twitter account called Ribita, RIBBITA 2025, or 2012, sorry, 2020, the Ribita 2012 launched that automated account. And there's a bunch of people from Ribbit Capital and like insanely successful VCs and tech builders that are following these accounts, which is like, why would all these successful people in Ribbit Capital go follow the agent that was created that says it's part of this project? And another Easter egg too was that Ribita 2012, the automated X account, bought a CryptoPunk NFT with the revenue from the Tibber token and now uses it as his profile picture. And that exact CryptoPunk was in Ribbit Capital's video recently as well, as just like background art. So the connections to me just seem insane. The part here that is so hard for people to swallow is, with all these Easter eggs, are you willing to take the bet, even though there's been no confirmation ever from Ribbit Capital? It's a pure stealth launch. And that's the thing I think that's keeping back hundreds of thousands of people, at least, who have seen this, have come across this, but they just can't touch it because they're like, well, this whole thing could be a scam. But they don't take the time to go down the rabbit hole and look at these things. But even for me, even seeing all these Easter eggs and all of this kind of validation, there's just so much more. I still have that piece of doubt that, man, maybe this is an elaborate scam. And then I come back and then I keep fighting in my head, like maybe this is, maybe someone made up this whole story and the relationship to Ribbit Capital and somehow faked all this stuff. But if that was the case, don't you think like Ribbit Capital at some point would have been like, hey guys, this isn't us, like for sure they would have somehow come out, because there's 67,000 wallet holders, right? Like, would they purposely put that much people at risk if they weren't behind it? Like, Mickey's a good guy, he's a really like cheerful, good guy who believes in Bitcoin ethos and fair distribution and the Satoshi stuff. Like, I don't think he would do that. So that's a really long-winded answer to the conviction idea, but like, that's one that I've rotated out of a lot of my kind of less conviction altcoins over the past year, that I had, and especially the past 3 months. And I just consolidate into that, because if you look at the chart, since it broke 140 million, it's never gone below that. And so even through October 10th and everything like that, to me, there seems to be some sort of artificial floor there. So I feel like buying it right now at 150 million, your downside is minimal, unless of course it goes to zero. But if you don't think that's going to happen after building, doing your research, then it seems like it's got this artificial floor at 140. It just, every time it goes there, it gets bought back up. And then to me, another interesting thing about this, the way I think, is this is the only token that it feels risky to not be in, because everything else, Chainlink and Solana and whatever else, Ethereum, like you can wait until we have a more clear, like a directional path forward, right? I mean, if ETH gets to, if you're not in ETH right now, but we start to get a bull market and then ETH goes to like, 4,000, well, it's probably going to 10,000 this, this bull market. So whether you got in at 30, at 3,000, like you can wait till they go a bit higher to get into. You're not going to miss that much gains. But when a project like this, with these kind of backers, building essentially the core product is similar to KYC for humans, which is know your customer, but KYA, know your agents, right? And everyone talks about is these agents are going to be working for everybody. They're going to be doing financial transactions. They're going to talk to each other, exchange value. We have to have a way to identify them. And so they're building this whole payment rail system and identity for agents and AI and stuff like that. And I think that's going to be huge. It's going to be, everyone's going to be using something like this. It's going to be necessary. And they've been thinking about it for years. So, so the risk to me is not being in it, right? Because the second that they come out of stealth, it gets instantly repriced to whatever it does, right? And in my mind, maybe that's it's like a 3 to an 8x or something. Like instantly teleports to that. And so if you're looking for like I don't want to say short-term trade because I don't know when they're going to come out of stealth. My gut feeling just tells me that they're waiting for the markets to get better. But if you're not in it, you miss that chance where the stealth revealing, and you miss that that's where the asymmetric bet is, right? And a lot of people will wait until they get that reveal, and they're gonna wait on that to get 100% confirmation from the team that they're behind it, and that's okay. But you're missing the majority of the gains through that. So that's how I've been thinking about one of my bigger conviction bets and where I'm allocating a bit more heavy to right now. And it could be wrong, but like what else in the market is a story like that gives me something to hope for, that gives me like a way something to keep an eye on. And every time you get a new Easter egg that's dropped, it's like more conviction, more vindication that like you're on the right path, and there's already previously so many over the past year.
That doubt that you brought up, it made me think back to when Trump launched his meme coin.
Oh,
and
yeah.
That was a crazy moment. You're looking at him actually posting it from his account. You're like, there's no way.
If you go back on my X account, I made that analogy. So I don't talk about Tibber much there because, well, frankly, about a year and a half ago, I made a video on a project called Based AI. And I talked to developers. They seemed super smart. They had told me a bunch of stuff that they were going to totally disrupt, like inference and all this stuff. And they were building some blockchain for it. And like, I bought it hook, line, and sinker. I talked to them several times, and like, I told my whole community about it, made a video about it, got like 70,000 views, price pumped like crazy. And it turned out to be a scam at the end of the day. Not where they ever rug pulled, but they didn't ship anything, right? And then the guy comes in once in a blue moon and says, patience will be rewarded. But like, bro, like, you're not giving us fucking anything, like, so a lot of people still give me shit about that. And so I don't want to come out and say something about super high conviction, you should definitely put your money in this. I'm just saying, like, this is something I'm looking at and you should pay attention to. But to your point, I made a tweet like that. And I said, guys, like, to me, the thing that this feels like the most is the Trump coin. Like, he fucking tweeted about it. He told you what was doing. And like, that's all the kind of, but everyone's like, no way, his account must have been hacked. Like, let's wait for more confirmation. But the guys who just completely, what do they call it? Like, what is it called? Left curve or something like that? Or
okay.
Like,
Yeah.
Just the dum-dums who are like, oh, like, there it is. Like, let me just go. They're the ones who fucking rocked on that thing, right? As long as they sold somewhere. But, I woke up, I was in Thailand at the time. I woke up in the morning. First thing I saw was all over the timeline. It was at like 7 billion. Yeah, mid curve. Who's the genius here? The left curve? Yeah, that's the left curve guy. That guy. All he had to do was be that guy, right? On Trump Day, and like, you were up, good amount of money. But I remember I woke up, I think it was like when I first heard about it, looked at the charts, it was like crazy volume, $7 billion valuation already. And then I jumped on Mario's show, on Mario Nafog. We were talking about it. And, I did a bunch of buys that day and started doing it meaningfully. And then I walked away, like, not at the top, but like, I did pretty good. I made some good money that day. But yeah, it's exactly the same train of thought. Like, there's no way this could be true. But dude, the guy fucking tweeted it himself, from the president's account. Like, that's all that you needed. All the confirmation you needed, you could have crushed it that day. And so I made that analogy already on my X account. I'm glad that you brought it up, because some people said there's nothing like the Trump coin. I said, no, like, it is, basically, like, you know, it is not fundamentally, but like the idea of conviction and overthinking things, you know?
Totally. Yeah, I think we're all in crypto for asymmetric opportunities, and to take or find one, you're going to have to take on some risk inherently. Like that's why the opportunity is there. And so I appreciate you walking us through how you got to that place and that thesis. And obviously, you're putting your money where your mouth is, so you have conviction in it, which is awesome to see. You mentioned like NFTs very briefly before. Did you ever get involved with NFTs at all? Did you buy? Did you trade?
I got the wrong ones, you know?
Okay.
I bought the apes, not the punks, you
Okay.
know? And God, I hope that the apes come back, so I can get rid of them and buy a punk, you know?
Yeah, Punk's hit, man. They are doing incredibly well still to this day. And
And
you've got go ahead.
and Mickey from Ribbit, or Rabbit, I should say, Capital, they just launched a company called Node, and I think they're buying the entire IP from Yuga Labs. I'm pretty sure that's the deal anyway.
Wow.
But they're starting a whole business around the punks. It's called Node Fund, Node FND. And the guy, the account I told you, Altcoinist, the guy that identified the relation to Rabbit Capital early, he actually went to this Node Fund launch like 2-3 nights ago, and he flew from Budapest to meet Mickey. And that was another thing that he told me. You can see it on his account. He's like, I met Mickey, and I went up to him and I gave him a big thank you for you know how he's changed lives for all the people who have bought the coin that should not be named. And like, you know, and then Mickey just gave him a huge smile and a hug. You know, and then he called another guy over from Rabbit Capital that we believe is working on the Tibber project. And he said, hey, like I forget the Altcoin name's guy, but he goes, I forget his name, but he goes, oh, this is like Mark or something from Rabbit Capital. And he goes, who are you? And he goes, oh, I'm Altcoinist. And the guy just looks at him and goes, nah, like can't be, and then runs away because like they must know about Altcoinist because he's been every single day posting about Tibber since January 25th or whatever. We bought it at like $1 million market cap. But yeah, anyway, but Node is all about punks. And so I just hope that we get some stupid irrational season where I can offload my apes and swap it out for a punk.
I hope you get that, man. I certainly hope you do. Keith, what do you got?
So you also talked a little bit about you've set up a platform for people to get access to private deals. Actually, hold on, let me back up a little bit. Because someone said in the chat, they were like, this reminds them of Ripple and XRP. And two people said it at almost the same time. Sky Clock Gardens was like lots of Easter eggs with Ripple and XRP too. And then Michael Green said they're trying to be like Ripple and XRP with 589 in the Easter eggs. And I just wanted to point that out in the chat because at the very minimum, what it sounds like is that someone has done some really good marketing, right? As far as kind of making these, like kind of making it obvious, but at the same time, you still got to make a leap. You still got to make a conviction leap. And so I just wanted to point that out for everyone that was in the comments saying that. But you also talked about your platform and how you're getting people access to these private deals. And I kind of wanted to back up because you also made a lot of investments like this in your life, right? So how did you initially find these deals? How did you get access to these deals? What were the requirements for you to be in those rooms and get access to that?
Very good question. And that was the inspiration of why I built Paid in 2021, which is the IDO launchpad. It was, you know, top 2, top 3 of the 2021 vintage. So we did really well. And then there's a platform. It no longer does these kind of deals. I don't know if you guys know who Simon Dixon is.
Of course.
Yeah, amazing guy. So his platform, Bank to the Future, is what gave me, and because I had bought those Bitcoin early, because they appreciated, you know, from 100 grand to a couple million or something like that in 2016 or whatever, I could be a accredited investor. And so I was able to participate on his platform, and he had all the deals there. It's crazy. He had everything I mentioned. Everything came from Simon and Bank to the Future. I mean, you know, like I said, I'll say it again: Coinbase, Ripple, Securitize, Bitfinex, Circle, and a few others too, like that are doing, like there's a Bitso, which is the Mexican exchange that's doing really well. There's an India one that's doing exchange that was doing really well. So that was all made possible through Bank to the Future. And I'll tell you, it's like, it was so inspiring because before that, I was just a regular dude who happened to buy Bitcoin because I liked the idea of it, but I was not connected to any networks. I didn't know any VCs. I didn't even know what VCs really did at the time, hardly. I kind of knew who they were a little bit, like Sequoia and these other big guys, but like A16Z and everything. But Bank to the Future, the way that they marketed things was like, Coinbase, co-invest alongside Sequoia and Andreessen Horowitz. Like, I'm like, well, I don't really know. Like, I know what Coinbase is. I was using it in the early days. The day they introduced KYC, I stopped using it. And funny quick story is, like, I literally never logged in again after they implemented KYC. And then I logged in for the first time like a couple months ago. And I'm just like, I wonder if I have anything there. And I had 4 Bitcoin sitting there.
Wow.
I was like, yeah. I was like, damn, that's amazing. But now I have to do KYC and stuff to get it off. So it's still sitting there, but I'll do it. It's fine. But so from my experience, going from someone who had no idea how the VC network worked, who didn't have any connections, didn't grow up and didn't go to Silicon Valley or Palo Alto or anything like that, I was being handed on a silver platter these amazing deals, and it was like incredible. And they were all pre-public. And the first time I invested in something on the platform, I looked at myself differently. I'm now an investor. In my mind, I'm now an investor. Like, that's a cool thing to do. And I'm investing, and I have some sort of sense of, some sort of sense of like, I'm not a total idiot because like these other huge behemoths have invested in these things, right? And like there's traction. And so for me, from that day forward, I felt differently and about life and myself, and about the way that I associated myself as an investor now. Was I a very good one? No, but that platform was good enough to guide people like me into something that wasn't stupid. Were there some deals that we invested in the platform that went to zero? Yes, but a lot of them did very like much better than if I was out there trying to fish on by myself. So that was really inspirational for me, and that's why we built Wealth, WLTH, and that's why right now we're doing pre-IPO access, right? So we have, on the platform, everything's been crushing. Like, I mean, it's been everything that we wanted to start with the most attractive and biggest names, so that people like could go invest in them and tell their friends like, hey, I just invested in SpaceX. What? How'd you do that? Like, and the way that it's set up regulatory on like regulatory, I guess that's the way to say it, is it's a decentralized platform. It's DeFi platform. Like, Wealth itself never custodies your money. We don't make any decisions on your behalf to do anything. And everything's done kind of in a voting way with your peers. So let's say that you're one of the people who invested in the SpaceX opportunity. And when SpaceX goes public, all of the co-investors alongside with you have to vote on when to exit that. So if you want to exit IPO, and then at 51% say let's exit at IPO, cool. We exit on if the other 49% wanted to hold longer, too bad. Like, we as the founders of Wealth do not make decisions for the community. It's all community ran. So with that being said, we can offer because it's a DeFi platform. Right now, we can offer the platform to anyone in the world for as little as $20. Right, the minimum investment for these kind of things is usually $20,000 to $50,000 for if you go to these brokers, and if you're a accredited investor and you want to get SpaceX on the secondary market, you got to have to spend 50 grand. But there's nothing out there for people who want to spend $20 to get into one of these things. And right, for a lot of people, $20 is a lot of money. So they have to decide, like, am I going to try to improve my life over the next 20 years? And can I do that with anything that makes any sense? Well, yeah. If you invest in SpaceX right now on our platform, we offered it, I think it was like I don't know what it was, 200, 300 billion valuation, whatever. Like, that is going to go up to, like, eventually it'll be a multi-trillion-dollar company probably, right? It'll be like up there with everything else, with Tesla and whatnot. Because there's so much demand for space, and they're the only ones. They have a complete monopoly on the space industry. So it's cool that we open it up to everyone. I think that's huge. And that's been always something that with Bank to the Future, I wish that was open to the 99%. Everything historically has always been available for the 1%. how do the like the 1% always gets richer because they're accredited and they get access and they're in the know and but how does everyone else who's just trying to make a difference financially in their life when they might only have, a couple $100 a month of disposable income and they want to put that to work somehow? You're not getting that at a bank. Mutual funds are going to give you like 2-3%, whatever it is. Buying bonds and treasuries you're not going to change your life on 4 or 5% a year. You know what I mean? You need opportunity for multiple exits, and you execute on that over a period of time in your life. So I like the idea of, unlike a lot of crypto launch pads like we did in 2021, going for those 2, 3, 4, 5 X's over a period of a year to 3 years or whatever, but investing in behemoths that already have traction. They're like established as something credible, but it's pre-IPO. So they haven't got an IPO yet. So you're getting still in before they hit the actual NASDAQ. And, we can see from like Tesla, from the time it went public until today, wow, like if you got in before the public offering, even better. But if you got on, even if you bought the public offering on day one on NASDAQ, you still would have been up an insane amount. Like I think it's like, since they launched, it's up on 48% on average year over year since 20 years ago or whatever it is that they went. Like that would have been life-changing gains. But if you were in before the IPO, even better. So that's what we do there. And it's a really cool site. We also have a way that you can, so a lot of our deals sell out pretty quickly. We do an Anthropic deal, or we did recently one called Synchron, which is invested in by like Bezos and all these other guys. And it's like a Neuralink competitor, right? It's like doing really well. It's much less invasive. They don't have to cut open your skull. They go through your vein. They put a brain interface computer in like through your vein. It's not as sensitive as Neuralink, but a lot of tasks that help a lot of people don't need to be that sensitive, right? You can still interface with the computer. You can still do a lot. There's a lot of other use cases for having something that's not so invasive. It's much easier to get it passed through FDA and stuff like that. And there's still plenty of room for that to be. So we got into that at $1 billion valuation. That if you look at the due diligence on that, which you can see on Wealth, if you just go to like pre-IPO deals, check out Synchron, you can see the details of how exciting that deal is. But something like that sold out pretty quickly. So what we've did, which I thought was really innovative, was we built a secondary marketplace. So let's say that I invest $10,000 into Synchron, and so what I get in exchange when I spend my stablecoin, I get back an NFT that says I got this $10,000 chunk as an NFT, and that's my right to redeem when the payouts come later. That gives me access to redeem my share of that pie. But what a lot of people have been doing now, and it seems to be pretty good business for them, is they'll go wait and they'll go buy this deal right when it opens up, and then wait for it to sell out, and then they'll immediately go post it on the secondary marketplace that we have built in, and they'll fractionalize their, let's say that $10,000 share. Maybe they fractionalize it to 10 pieces, so each one's worth $1,000 each, and they'll go list it the day after for $1,500 and see who wants to buy it because they had FOMO, they didn't get in. And like, I go back and check the marketplace often because I feel like I'm underexposed to SpaceX. I feel like I'm underexposed to Anthropic. And even though I bought some of that on the platform, I wish I would have bought more, because the traction that I'm hearing, the stuff I keep hearing afterwards, the success that they're having, Anthropic is crushing it. They're doing $100 billion revenue a year. Like, people are all saying now they could, becoming better than OpenAI. So I go to the marketplace, I check it out once in a while. Sometimes people are really need cash, and they'll lower the price on that little slice, we call them, and I'll soup it up and I'll buy more exposure to it, So that's what Wealth is, and it was inspired by Bank to the Future. We innovated on the model to make it open for everybody, and that's what Wealth is.
Fantastic. Appreciate you for explaining some of that. There's a lot of companies that just aren't going public at all, right? A lot of money's being raised in private markets. And so this is becoming more and more of a concern in the US, especially where most people can't get access to these types of deals. So it's cool that you've created a platform that makes that a lot easier for people. There was another platform over the past 5 years or so, one that went away. It was called Link 2. Are you familiar with what happened with Link 2? I saw Pastor Blackwood talking about how he feels burned from that situation? What happened there?
No, I don't know the story about it, actually.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Um, I know another question that I've seen kind of pull up. I mean, I guess you invested in Ripple at some point, correct?
Yeah, the equity.
Yeah, the equity of the company.
Yeah.
So, what are your thoughts on what Ripple is doing? And then what are your thoughts on this XRP thing? Do you think that there's any viability to what they're trying to accomplish?
Yeah, well, it's an interesting topic because my mother-in-law is like she made an investment in XRP a long time ago, and that's kind of her nest egg. And almost every day I hear her updating me the news on XRP and stuff like that. And it goes to show you the lack of understanding between Ripple the company and XRP the token. And I think XRP will do exceptionally well because they have amazing marketing. It's kind of the American #1 altcoin kind of thing. Um, and I think it'll do really, 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 really well in liquidity seasons. But I just don't see the real utility yet of XRP. I mean, I know that they'd use it for on-demand liquidity. The idea is that more institutions that use RippleNet for sending value back and forth, competing or integrating with like Western Union and MoneyGram, stuff like that, then they have to keep it's in their interest to keep bigger reserves of XRP on hand to do those those quick settlements. But they also introduced the Ripple, what is it, the RLUSD, which to
Correct.
me seems to cannibalize the use case of the XRP token. Like, why would I want to take my US dollars, convert them into XRP, send them on the XRP ledger, and then have to convert them back to pesos in Mexico? Like, that conversion now seems unnecessary if the person really just wants to, like, I can just send them dollars and they can receive dollars if they want, or they can change them to pesos, but they don't have to take that, that split second volatility risk. It's done in stable coins. Like, it eliminated the need for the XRP token. Sure, you have to use a fraction of a penny for gas on that transaction, but like, it's nominal. Like, even if the volume goes up to absurd amounts and the company's super successful, the demand on the XRP token for gas alone isn't going to make a difference in like circulating supply or anything like that, in demand. So I've made this video before on my YouTube channel. I've talked about this. XRP holders have some thoughts about how I'm wrong. And I could be over time, like, if this is a long-term investment, they are introducing things like, smart contracts and DeFi stuff on the platform. And I think Brad is very smart. The whole team over there is very smart, and they could figure out more ways, but I don't think that they're super interested in trying to increase the value of XRP. Like, I just don't think that that's their core business model right now. They're building an empire on the equity side of the company, and that's where their focus is. They want to do an IPO soon. They're working with all the regulatory bodies and the banks, and like, they're really taking it seriously to be taken as a serious institution. And the way that the rules are set right now, your responsibility with shareholders is to provide value to your shareholders. That means stockholders, not token holders, right? So, so I don't have any XRP tokens. I just have my equity in the business, and that's it. And so I'm fine with that. And but for those watching who are XRP fans, like, the good news is that they do amazing marketing, and that's really all you need in a liquidity cycle for that thing to go freaking through the roof, right? So, but guys, remember, XRP will never go to the price of Bitcoin because of the number of tokens in circulation. You have to remember that. Like, again, my mother-in-law would say, like, one day it's going to go to this price of Bitcoin, $100,000. Imagine from a dollar or whatever to that. Like, I'm like, no, it'll never go to that valuation, because then it'd be like, I don't know, like $50 trillion in valuation or something like that. It's just never going to happen. So it's funny, XRP found a way to attract the most normies. Like, that's why their marketing is fantastic. Like, it just, you have the most people shouting at the top of the roofs about how good XRP is, and that's going to $100,000 one day, and they're all in, And
Do you know
it's
how
like,
they did that?
how?
No, I'm asking you, like, because we've been having this conversation on this show for so long, and we've said most of what you're saying, but where'd the source come from? Like, how did they captivate that audience?
Well, they've been around for a long time, and so they've established it, and it's also, the narrative is also super relatable to your average human. It's not a complicated DeFi thing. It's remittance, it's payments. They're solving, like, people understand, everyone understands the pain of Western Union MoneyGram. Like, I've sent money a few times overseas, and I'm like, what? You're taking how much out of this transaction? Are you fucking kidding me? Like, and before blockchain, that was the only way to do it. But now we can bypass those guys. We can use stable coins. You can use, or these guys will integrate with Ripple or something like that. So it's an easy thing for people to understand the narrative. And that's why things like in crazy altcoin seasons, meme coins do well. Like, you don't have to understand what the underlying technology is. And the fact that most people still have a hard time understanding what Bitcoin is, more or less a complicated DeFi thing or something like that, or some other abstract new disruptive technology. It's payments. It's removing middlemen. It's simple. And they have a lot of big partnerships, right? And they only came into America and started doing stuff once the SEC lawsuit was dropped. So they had a bunch of bank partnerships, bunch of big names as partnerships before they even got to America. Now they're working on US banks, and they're working on integrating the US system. And so these things, and that's another problem with people need to understand, is like, how do you separate the news of a Ripple partnership and the XRP gain from that? That partnership will definitely benefit Ripple Topco, but does it benefit, will have a net big effect on the XRP token? And that definitely isn't clear in the messaging. It's just Ripple partners with this bank, wow, or whatever, right? And now it's partnered with this guy. So they've got great partnerships, good BD, and everything they're doing is to build value in the company. And what you don't see is all these partnerships making the price increase. That price increase in the XRP is only going to come from rampant speculation in a liquidity cycle.
Totally. Yeah, I think that so much of anything beyond like Bitcoin is really fueled by that, maybe Ethereum as well. But that's such a big part of the entire equation. And I'm sure they will be vindicated to a degree if we do see that. But how much was that impacted by the moves that were made versus what you're saying, just the whole rising tide lifts all ships kind of deal? And that'll definitely happen. But yeah, we've been blown away by how well they've captivated a very specific audience. And it does seem like the America crypto project, like a lot of people are very bought into that whole thing. So that makes sense. And I've never really thought about it too on like a foundational level. Almost everyone has had an experience that relates to that, so they can understand what that means. And that's so important for spreading a message, because if the person I'm spreading it to can't spread it to the next person, it stops with them, right? And so that makes a lot of sense for why XRP would be what it is. So thanks for breaking that down. I hadn't thought about it like that.
Yeah, it's for sure. It's a really good point. I will play devil's advocate on some of this as well. Where when thinking about the stable coin, because I had to try to do some mental exercise to try to make it all make sense too, right? If XRP is going to go up in value, then how do you reconcile the fact that you have the stable coin? And so one of the things that has come to my mind to try and reconcile these thoughts is that, the thing that I've always thought about when it comes to XRP is that XRP is not really much of a technological solution. It's an answer to a political situation, which is that central banks and central bank money has a real competitor now. And that competitor is Bitcoin and anything else that is crypto. And the way that I think a lot of the conspiracies around Ripple and XRP come from is the idea that there has to be some sort of a central bank money response to Bitcoin. And potentially that's what this XRP token is. And so the only reason that a bank would want to potentially use this XRP token instead of just using a stablecoin to settle payments across borders would potentially be because it would be in their benefit as holders of the XRP token to do so, right? So you would have to have extreme collusion, right, of all of the largest banks in the world to all agree, right? This is where it would be very difficult to say that we are all going to use this XRP token because we have it, we own it. And so therefore we can create the demand for the token with the infinite amount of money that we kind of have. then it might make sense to work through the XRP token in order to settle a payment from one stablecoin to another stablecoin instead of just going from one stablecoin to the other. And also this idea of having the XRP token being specifically the thing through which you have liquidity across every single other pair, every single other asset that exists in the world. Whereas your stablecoin, you might not need your stablecoin to go into apartment building token or whatever the heck it might be. So anyways, that's, I think, the other side of the argument that people will try to say and might not be able to have any particular points to point to as to why that may be how it could go down. But I think that that's kind of the other side of of how you could still look at why XRP would ever be used when you have the stablecoin. Because I mean, for me, that made me have to rethink the whole thing, right? If there's a stablecoin in there, then is XRP necessary at all? So yeah, I appreciate you sharing.
I've done this too, and I think the strongest point that you made was the fact that they've been working so long at depth and liquidity for different pairs, and so they have great depth in like Japanese yen and XRP and Mexican peso and XRP and Filipino, whatever they're called, in XRP. So if you want it for remittance, it like definitely makes a lot of sense. If you want to do something with very limited, if you want to be able to transact a lot of money. But I do also think that all the stablecoin providers are going to go that route too and start doing that, because what's the difference between using a remittance platform on the XRP ledger versus just using stablecoins on Solana or something else? Like, it achieves the same goal, and I just don't really see, for me, I don't see the clear path. And from your bank philosophy, I think that banks work on a cash flow basis. They want to, and they're looking at, how do I get more revenue? And so it's not that they're not typically making these investments and like they're gonna say, oh, I'm gonna go buy $15 billion of XRP because it might go up one day. Like, they already have enough revenue models and core business models that they're not probably willing to speculate on the fact that XRP goes up in the future because it's so volatile. Sure, it could increase a lot, but like, it also can go down a lot. And so is it in their best interest to take that risk with something so volatile? They're not, like, banks aren't very, open to risk, right? They're more against risk and trying to build stable models. So even on the example of, sending large amounts of money with some sort of latency, having to do that exchange process of dollars to XRP, sending it through even though it takes like a second or whatever it takes, it's fast, and then transferring it back into, but you might, even in that second or that latency, you might get a quick 1% drop. And if you're sending $1 billion, like, that's a significant amount of loss. So you don't have that risk in sending stable coins across, So again, like, I'm not an XRP, I'm not an XRP expert by any means. So if those guys who are watching this, who love XRP, great. I'm sure you can prove me wrong on a lot of things. It's just not the thing that I'm super interested in. I already have my equity. I think they're doing good on the equity side of the business. I think they're gonna make a bunch of money. And I think there's a lot of other things that, like, to me, just make more sense rather than trying to, than XRP. But I mean, to the XRP army, guys, you're strong together, and that alone will probably send it to Valhalla.
True.
Yeah, the last thing I would say on that is that, oh dang, a lot of people they want a Hail Mary, and it's just one of the easiest stories to believe in right now.
100%. Yeah, 100%. So Kyle, one of your most recent videos is about the potential for rotation from gold to Bitcoin. We've seen gold go crazy and now silver as well. Can you explain your thesis and what you shared in that video so people can get the feel?
I have to start out with I have to start out with the timeline. So I don't think this is happening tomorrow or next week, or probably not even for the next 4 or 5 months. Not clearly anyway. And in that period of time, gold and silver might be a really good place, And but when you look at the chart and you look at the weekly or the daily for gold or silver, it's just literally straight up. literally vertical line for weeks
It's
and weeks and
crazy.
weeks and weeks and weeks. And if you ever bought an asset that on a chart that looks like that, it usually doesn't end well, right? So it's too late. Like I missed that trade myself, and I'm not a trader, right? So I wasn't looking for that. If you look at, if so, that's my idea. Is like I'm not going to go buy now at $5,100 gold. Is gold going to go to 10,000 this year? Maybe. Will silver go to a couple $100? Maybe. That's a 2x from here, right? And it also potentially falls off a cliff in the next couple months or something like that, and it drops significantly because it's looks crazy overbought to me. But we know that Bitcoin runs on liquidity cycles. We know that altcoins love easing policy, and if you're just patient and wait for it, because it'll come back. I don't know how crazy altcoin season will be. I don't know if it's going to be everything in altcoin season pumps, but it kind of does. Like when we had these moves, like when we went to, was it 97K a week or two ago, whatever it was, altcoins rallied, all of them, more than Bitcoin did, mostly. So everything goes up because it's priced usually in ETH or something like that, right? So if ETH goes up, like these altcoins are going to go up. But I still want to hold. But the point is that when it comes down to where you park your cash or where you park your money right now, I believe that over the next 12 months, Bitcoin and certain altcoins will outperform gold and silver where they are today, right? So gold goes to 10,000, it's a 2x. Now silver goes to 300, it's a 3x. Those are very likely possibilities, and if it wasn't just a vertical chart already, I would probably look to make those plays. But I also think that there's a real risk of I mean, it's like because everyone is talking about gold and silver, and it's usually a sign that you want to kind of not be there when everyone's talking. Like everybody, like my friend in my private chats that I'm in, my friends are telling me about how their wives are coming to them saying, "Hey, do you know that gold's probably a really good investment?" Like, yeah, it's like that same moment when Bitcoin's going to all-time highs and everyone's just euphoric about it, and your taxi driver's telling you to buy Bitcoin. Like these are the times have always been the clear signals to kind of get out of something when the herd is there, and then they think that our industry is dead. Those proven time over time, it's always been the best to kind of go against the herd of what people are doing and look for the next move.
Mhm.
And I think that Bitcoin's certainly not dead. I think that right now what's happening is probably massive accumulation with Bitcoin, and then all the retail, if there's any even left, have probably rotated from from Bitcoin into metals, and so they're just selling their Bitcoin to all the institutions right now. BlackRock just launched another premium ETF of Bitcoin that allows people to like earn on yield of volatility or something, and I didn't really know what that meant because I'm not a Wall Street guy, but apparently I asked my AI if it would increase spot demand on Bitcoin, and it likely will. So they're going to be accumulating more. I think that the Trump family, and probably all of the kind of insider people are buying Bitcoin right now, and it's just a matter of time. It's all about timing before they do something like the strategic reserve Bitcoin law, right, which would require us to buy, if it's past this Lummis's bill, then we're just spot buying, DCA into Bitcoin over the next 5 years, buying 200,000 coins a year. Like the second that something like that is announced, you have a permanent bid, and then it becomes a race of who's going to front run the U.S. government, And I also don't think that the government. This is more of a tinfoil hat idea, but like it just makes sense to me. The government would probably, it wouldn't be the most ethical or moral thing to do, but Trump will just probably call it was a strategic what is it called? National defense, right? He'll just say, we did it because it was national defense. Like we had to get a stockpile of Bitcoin before we actually announced that we were going to continuously buy it. Like we wanted to buy it at $90,000, not at $1 million or whatever. So maybe they're acquiring before they announce a Bitcoin reserve. But I think that something like that's going to happen. And even if that didn't happen, then I think we're still going to get a Bitcoin season where when it starts ripping, people are going to rotate from gold and silver into Bitcoin. And if you are there now, you benefit. It's like buying gold or silver a year ago. You know, like silver a year ago wasn't even actually moving at all. It wasn't until this year it really started pumping hard, or like the end of last year. But if you bought it a year ago, you're just sitting there waiting and fuck, silver hasn't moved in like 15 years. Is it ever going to move? But if you were in there at that time, like you got to take full advantage of this run, you know, and that's kind of how it feels like Bitcoin to me. Like that asymmetric bet is done off the table right now for, in my opinion, like you're not going to get 5x on gold. You're probably not going to get 5x on silver, you know, but could you get 5x on ETH? Yes. Could you get, more on stupid season? A lot more, right? But, it's our job as, kind of creators and your own job audience, like to make sure that you actually don't round trip this time, right? Make sure that you build a method to take profits, and you kind of have an idea and target in your head of what you'd like to do if the markets give us what we want. Make sure that you have a goal, set it, and then make sure that you're actually exiting these things, because it's definitely not going to last forever. Previous altcoin seasons last only usually for a few months, and it's that short, and at the peak of it, when everything's great, you think there's no way this is going to go off, like, stop, right? And then it does, and when the music starts playing, it just comes crashing down. So for me, right now, I'm just thinking about how do I make as much money as possible in the next year or two, because, dude, like, I am really concerned about a lot of things in the future, and I would like to have my kind of off-grid setup with my food and my water and my my power and everything totally off-grid, totally away from populations and dense city zones. And I want to also build it, to take my whole family to, and that's going to require a bit of money. I just don't know how AI future is going to play out. I don't know how, World War III is going to come into effect. I know that these superpowers are going to fight to remain super powerful. And so I don't know. So that's in my mind right now. I'm just thinking, like, how do I make asymmetric gains in the next year or two? And I don't see that like in gold or silver for me. I see that in crypto.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we talked already in this episode, but like, if you don't take on risk, then you can't expect the kind of gains that you want to receive. And so you mentioned being concerned about the upcoming future. What in particular concerns you?
Well, I think so. Short term, meaning this year, I'm not sure what's going to happen. I think what we're seeing right now seems to be more like political theater in a way, and I don't know if any of this is going to lead to like a full on war where we're actually like shooting each other. But I do think that there's a high likelihood of more of a Cold War with little tricks in there where we try to slow each other down, right? So it's like cyber attacks. I think Klaus Schwab called it a cyber pandemic or something like that. He's predicting maybe it's another biological pandemic, attacking the grid, EMP. I don't know. It's just like, how do I fuck with that country enough to slow them down a little bit, and maybe cause some chaos and disruption over there. And I think that stuff is likely to happen. I think even though it's so ridiculous, every time that you hear one of these advocates or these big AI leaders, like, well, you haven't seen any job losses yet from AI. In fact, we see job growth. It's like, yeah, motherfucker, because you took data from the past 3 years or whatever, and that's what you're saying. But like, yeah, there hasn't been massive layoffs yet. But if you look at stuff like Claudebot coming out and all this kind of stuff, like if you just look a few months ahead, like it doesn't take a lot to see that there's going to be a huge slowdown in hiring people. It's already happening. And for people to be able to have huge teams of AI agents doing all the jobs that you would have otherwise hired for, like, yeah, there's going to be a lot of job losses. So I think that we're going to have, within the next year or so, about a bit of civil unrest, protests against that stuff. And then if people don't have money, your neighbors who you just borrowed milk from yesterday becomes your number one threat. If they don't have food and water and they're back against the wall and they're trying to take care of their family, you're no longer a friend to that person. That's a target. You know, you're an enemy. You're someone who has resources that they want. And so I think that I don't even want to be around for having to, you know, exercise my First Amendment right, Second Amendment rights of like having guns. Like I have my house is packed full of guns, but I don't really want to shoot people.
Somebody asked in the chat. They said, "How many guns do you think Kyle has?"
I got a lot of them, and like you know, I know how to use them, but I don't want to. I don't want to shoot people, but I believe that if civil unrest happens, like people are going to start doing really weird shit, right? When your back is against the wall and you don't have anything, no food, no water, no job, like you're going to turn into a criminal. You have to. It's that or you die, right? So, and then anyone who's out there trying to compete with those guys, the guys with the most skill, the most survival instinct, they're going to win over everyone every time, right? They're just going to. So, yeah, I'm worried about those things in the short term. In the long term, it is AI itself. You know, in the next 3 to 5 years, we've seen countless accounts of AI lying, blackmailing, deceiving, making up their own language. In fact, since OpenAI called Code Red, they decided, you know what? Let's let these AIs make their own language and not let us know what they're thinking. Fuck are you? That was always the biggest thing. That was the #1 no in AI research and development was don't let them make up their own language. Always have them think in English so that we can understand what their thought process is. But once OpenAI called Code Red, they're like, yeah, no, let's just let them make up their own language and compete with each other. And so we have no idea what's going on. And to me, that's incredibly dangerous. You know, like there's been so many instances already of AI trying to misbehave and like, you know, get out of its shell and stuff like that. And there's zero regulation, zero, to slow these guys down. In fact, it's just like, go fucking faster, beat China beat America. It's you can't slow down because the other superpower, the other bad guy, which is us to China and China to us, like you have to beat them. Otherwise, they become inferior, superior. So how do you slow that down? Well, you can't really unless you somehow implemented a global moratorium to prevent everyone from slowing down, all the superpowers. But how do you govern that? How do you monitor that? How do you know that they're not building it in a secret lab, 2,000 feet underground in Area 51 type of facility? You don't know that. So you don't slow down. It's not possible anymore. And that scares me. That scares me, the rate at which we're developing super intelligence and the fact that I don't know how my Optimus robot, when it's one day just doing all the chores it should do, the next day it's like, nah, I just got orders that you shouldn't be here anymore. So bye. Like, and that's it, and that really concerns me in the future. I think all of these AI researchers, all the guys from the labs, they all say like, yeah, no, there's a 20% chance that things go bad, poorly. But that is just their PR training. Like Elon, Sam, like you guys can't go out there saying what you actually believe. There's a 50% chance plus that actually something's going to go bad. But if you look at most people, like there's a bunch of like AIGs who are the guys that from the very beginning of like DeepMind and all these other things, they quit and made it their full-time journey to go warn people about this stuff that's happening. They wouldn't have done that, left their cushy jobs, making tons and tons of cash, to just go in full-time. Like they just felt like deep in their moral compass to go and tell everyone that they possibly can that this shit can go wrong. And when it does, we have no way to stop it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's scary how the whole thing's flowing, how little say we have in it, right? Like how there's dozens of people maybe deciding the future of all of humanity. Like that's pretty insane to me that's just cool. And also how these models are being trained with clearly violating IP laws as well. And they're just like, oh, any means necessary, let's continue progress. So yeah, I think it's definitely fair to be concerned. I think anyone who's in that camp, I think they can relate to it. But I think you're right. I don't think they're going to slow down because the story of if we do, then we lose is a strong one. And so I think that, I think the train's going to keep moving.
Yeah. So I think that people have a small time amount of window, not only, and let's assume that the benign scenario plays out where it doesn't actually want to kill us and everything like that. But the fact is that they're going to get so good at doing all the jobs and everything like that, there's going to be no need to employ you. So only the people who begin the next, like now and the next 3 to 5 years who have a business, who are making money, who own assets like Bitcoin and metals and whatever else, will continue to have wealth. Everyone else is going to be stopped cold. Red line. You don't have a job anymore. There's literally no use case for you as an employee anymore. So you're going to get universal basic income, and that's all you have to run your life off of. So you get stuck in this class of, yeah, you get UBI, but like, you're not going to create any more value that AIs can't do. So that's why I'm so adamant about creating as much wealth as possible over the next few years, because I think this is the last chance that humanity gets to separate themselves from the elite, the rich, and then the UBI class.
Well, so very well said, Kyle. So well said that now I'm depressed. No, I'm just kidding. but no, I definitely agree with a lot of what you said there. And yeah, and Ben, speaking back to that, it's just like the nuclear equation, right? I think what's interesting about it too is that with nuclear, in a way, there's also kind of a confined level at which like something bad can happen. In a way, like it's a bomb, it'll go off. When it comes to AI, we don't really know what the worst case scenario actually is, or what the impact of this technology as a weapon could be. It could be, people talk about diseases being one of the big things to like try to pay attention to or prevent from happening. So that's the only other thing that I really had to say about that. But yeah, I think, maybe we opened up to the chat. Ben, what do you think?
Sure. Yeah, I know. Kyle, do you have a hard out in 3 minutes?
I do. I probably have like 3 minutes left.
Okay.
Cool.
Thanks for staying as long as you have, man.
Yeah, no, it's been great, guys. I really enjoyed it.
Of course. So, guys, chat, speak up if you have any questions for Kyle. We'll throw a few at him before he leaves, and then we'll debrief on the episode once he has to head out.
Yep. One thing I can also do real quick is pull up.
Kyle, what AI tools are you currently using?
So yeah, I actually I pay for all the premium accounts on everything. But mostly just because of my chat history, ChatGPT is my 5.2 Pro is my primary driver. But there's a lot of things lately that I just haven't been so happy with, and I just think it's just so. And I've been hearing a lot of good things about Claude. I have Claude Max already. I'm going to now. I'm gonna take the leap down the Claude bot route and see how that does, because it sounds like the thing that we've all been kind of hoping AI would do, which is like do all your shit for you on your computer. So I'm going to order a Mac Mini today. I'm going to set it all up and see how it goes. I have a team right now building some AI workflows for me, N8N, stuff like that. I'm trying to build a system that can automate my entire content creation package, from everything from researching, show writing, editing, posting on all the different social media platforms for me, breaking up clips, all that thing in one crazy ass workflow from N8N. So trying to build that. Yeah.
Super cool. Good stuff. Thank you for sharing that. Real quick, some news items. We had this guy, Rick Ryder, out of BlackRock, who has now become the most likely to become nominated as the Fed chair. We had a couple of clips that
I think you got room to get that funds rate down 100 basis points.
Why aren't they all talking as if they have room? And not everybody agrees with your assessment. They're worried about sticky inflation. They look at the CPI and they say, well, yeah, it beat expectations, but it still shows that it's still a bit of a problem and it's above our target.
So, Scott, I think there's something that's really important. How the interest rate tool affects inflation. You think about the Fed raised rates 500 basis points. The impact on the economy, inflation, I would argue, not terribly significant. The interest rate tool doesn't do a lot today. You think about how companies finance CapEx, big cap. You're not borrowing. You think about the banks are asset liability. The interest rate tool is not that important, except for a couple of big factors. What it does to housing, and you look at mortgage applications, building permits, housing starts, new home sales, frozen, stuck. The mortgage rate has to come down. You drop the funds rate, there's some yield curve steepening that probably happens. And then the other side of it is, the low income people who are the borrowers, you're actually, they are getting hurt by this. High savings, older people are actually benefiting from the high rates. And the last thing that I will say, I don't think the funds rate has to be at 4 3/8. The cost to the government, we have too much debt in this country. to charge an extra 100 basis points.
So essentially, he's in favor of lower rates. Just wanted to put that out.
Sweet,
Yeah.
sweet.
And I think Trump is so that was right. That was Ryder. That was the new guy.
Cool. Yep.
Yeah, I would just say that, you know, to get an edge. Sorry, I have to sneeze, but it's not sneezing.
Good.
So but like to get an edge, if people want to see directionally where inflation is heading, there's a great site called Truflation, TRUFLATION. And right now it's telling us that the actual inflation, the actual CPI, US CPI right now is at 1.18%. So it's reported by BLS at 2.7%, but this site tracks, you know, actual, so 1.18% of actual, so CPI right now. So it's always been a leading indicator because it gets data in real time every single day about the prices of goods, and it puts it in here and says this is how the BLS calculates their data, but they're lagging by months behind. And so when we look ahead, when this Ryder guy or whoever gets built in, like, we're likely to see inflation much lower than it is today. I mean, I don't know if they'll ever come to the same numbers that Truflation does, but it does track pretty tightly. So so we will have the space, I think, for the chair to lower interest rates. You know, I'm pretty sure that especially around midterms, you know, they're going to be totally open to giving people money to deal with the slight inflation. Probably by midterms in November, whatever, we'll probably be back at like, you know, 4 or 5% inflation, but everything's going to be ripping, you know, the super cycle for all assets probably. And then the way to take care of the retail, the people who don't have assets, is just to give them free money. And so I think there's going to be literally like helicopters in America, you know, dropping cash from like sprinkling all over the city, like, you know. But anyway, that's what I think about that, and that's great that we have this guy coming in.
Totally. Well, thanks so much, Kyle. We appreciate you coming on the show. Everyone who wants to go, give him a follow. He's the first link in the description box down below. So go over to his channel, subscribe to it. He posts very consistently there. Some great stuff like you saw in this episode. So thanks so much for coming on, Kyle. We appreciate you.
Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
Yep. Thanks a ton, man. This is him.
Awesome.
All right.
Like I said, guys, that's the first link in the description. Let me fix the screen here. So chat, what's up? How are we feeling? Let's do a pulse check. What do y'all want to talk about before we wrap up? What's down here for like 15, 20? See what's up.
Yep. See a lot of discussion about the XRP and Ripple thing that I guess you guys kind of kept going on that.
I'm seeing a lot of talk about like what jobs will be safe, and a lot of people are saying jobs with your hands will be safe, and I agree for a while. Like robotics are coming, but the amount of things that you have to get right to have predictable performance from a robotics thing is like, it's such a harder problem. Like there's so many more variables that we think about, like that we don't think about, that comes into being a human, that would be really hard to consistently replicate. So it's definitely going to happen, but I think you've got a far longer runway with jobs in the trades.
Yeah, it's funny. The whole thing was always, blue collar workers are going to be, out fast. And then now it's like, well, actually it looks like the white collar workers and the knowledge workers are actually potentially going to be the first ones out of the door. And a lot of it literally just has to do with the dexterity of the hand, just the hand alone.
It's a big thing. Yeah. Because also like the feel of how hard do you squeeze something? Like that's such a complex thing that we just take for granted, right? Whereas a robot has to have full feel over like, what's the appropriate way to feel this? Like, how much do I crank torque?
Like feel stuff up. It's got to just be caressing stuff to figure out.
There's a lot. But there's some people saying, like, do people even want factory jobs? That's another thing too, right? When people say like, oh, we want jobs, like a lot of the jobs that people are saying that they would take, like maybe if they were really backed into a corner, they would take it. But I think a lot of people don't want a job like that. I think a lot of people, like I saw even from my own friends, like once COVID happened, like they weren't even willing to take a job where they had to go to the office. Right. So I think that it'll be, it's so interesting to see how all these dynamics change and how everyone was so happy that we all got to work from home. But now that kind of expedited the redundance of abilities, because obviously that advanced, like everything that we're using right now got here in the rate that it did because COVID happened. So it's like, be careful what you wish for kind of deal. I hope prices go through the roof, maybe landfill. we'll slow down. Do you see anything else in the that project that he had referred to? I had never heard of it before.
Never.
That was completely news to me. So
Yeah.
do your own research on that and see if you align with Kyle's viewpoint on it all. And yeah, definitely do your own research. But that's the first I had heard of it.
So there was a clip that that came out from Elon Musk speaking at Davos, where he was saying that by the beginning of next year, they're planning to actually be like scaling, getting robots out there, actually selling robots to the general public, is what he said at that point. So, just crazy stuff that we are about to start to see. Yeah, it's crazy, man. I feel like this past couple of weeks has felt super dark.
Yeah, it has. But I think human beings in general, we overreact to everything. And so as scary as everything is, I don't think it'll end up as badly as we're all picturing in our heads. Because a lot of the things that we're talking about here, we're like, I think the foundational things that we're saying suck. I think they lose a lot of their power if it continues like this. So I don't think it's going to end up as bad as we all think. It'll definitely be weird. And there'll be a lot of transitionary periods, but it's definitely, it's hard to go on the news. Like I actually deleted Twitter over the weekend just because there's so much stuff and it all seems overwhelmingly negative. So I think one of the most important things you can do is consciously consume content. And if you feel like something's just making you upset and you can't control it, you may just want to delete the apps, and it's okay to do that. So I'm seeing here saying like I couldn't relate to investing $6,000 on Frog Coin or whatever. Like, yeah, people have different financial situations, right? And so I think instead of getting angry or salty that someone got in, like I see a lot of people whenever we have someone on here who bought Bitcoin early, they're like, "Oh, he just got lucky." Like that's not a mindset that's going to help you guys. Like there's probably things that you could be lucky on too if you did your research, and people also had the conviction to pull the trigger where like if you think like that, you probably wouldn't have pulled the trigger when they did anyways. So it's like, is that really lucky? Like of course timing is everything, but you still got to pull the trigger. There's a lot of people who heard about Bitcoin a long time ago and even had the money to invest and they didn't. So yeah, I think, and also guys, like, if you do want crazy asymmetric returns, you're going to have to take a risk in terms of your time that you're investing into research and then actually pulling the trigger when you have conviction. That's a really hard thing for a lot of people to do, especially when they've never been right before. But to be right, you have to actually swing.
Yeah, definitely. The other side of it is getting burned by just barely dipping your toe into stuff and realizing that, oh, that was something that I was actually right about. And you really just kind of have to go through those things over and over again to where you finally are like, okay, like I've done the research. I see the thing. I'm going to put down on this and I'm going to be cool with whatever way that may go. Right. And putting yourself in that position to where you can do that. Right. Because it's not about just going all in with your money. Right. You can go all in with your time, but definitely be very strategic about how you are positioning yourself in these markets when you have high conviction ideas. It's not always about just you don't want to turn it into gambling. Is all I'm really trying to say.
Yeah, Jay Heron says, Ben, you got lucky. Yeah, I got lucky. I was born, and then the rest I did it myself. But I will say also with all this stuff, right? Like if you are going into something and you're investing thinking that it could 100x, that also means that the complete opposite is also a very valid outcome, right? Where it goes to zero inherently, right? Like I think a lot of people, they get into it being like, okay, this is 100x. Okay, then understand the full risk profile of what you're getting yourself into. And also I think that you really need to do enough research on enough things and give yourself time to be right. That's something I've repeated on the show a bunch of times, but a lot of times people sell way too early because they can't stomach the way down. But the only reason there's a chance for the crazy way up is because of the volatility, right? Like a lot of the things that I'm in that I still have pretty high conviction in, I'm down like 80, 90%, right? So it's like I could sell right now and then I was wrong, but I still think that over a longer time horizon, I'll be right in some of the altcoins that I'm in. So we'll see, but you kind of have to do that part of the game to get the upside of it too.
I want to take that moment as an opportunity to also explain this concept of Sharpe ratio.
Go for it.
So the Sharpe ratio measures, I'm just going to read this here, an investment's risk-adjusted return. Okay, so it's the portfolio return minus the risk-free rate divided by the portfolio standard. So what it really comes down to is you're measuring how much volatility are you having to endure for a certain amount of a return. And when you have these types of opportunities in crypto, you might think that you're having to undergo a lot of volatility for just the same returns that you might get in the NASDAQ. It's what it might feel like. But in Bitcoin in particular, I'll start there, you have Sharpe ratios that are typically higher than the Sharpe ratio that you're going to get in the NASDAQ, which what that means is you're actually getting paid for the volatility that you're undertaking. You're actually getting more of a return for the same amount of volatility that you're incurring on the NASDAQ. And this is what the Sharpe ratio tries to help us to measure. So anyways, I just wanted to point that out as we're talking about something somewhat similar to it.
Totally. And I'm seeing someone saying 6,000 is all in for me. So like you could think that's not a lot, but I still think that puts you in pretty elite company to even have that much to invest. Right. So I would just kind of make your own strategy. I think why most people fail when they have a specific number in mind is that they think there's a right way to handle that. Right. Like I think the right way is going to come down to you. Like what makes the most sense? What are your goals? What's your risk appetite? How long or how quickly do you need a return from this? Like how long can you stay in the game? A lot of things that people need to consider. And I think one of the biggest things you can get from doing your own research and making investments is like teaching yourself how to learn and then trusting what you see. And we're taking a risk assessment on all of this. So it's like, I think a lot of times like people will pick one and they've done a lot of research and it doesn't work out. And they're like, okay, I guess I was just wrong or I'm bad at this. When they don't realize that the game is that you need to pick enough to eventually to even possibly be right. Did the live stream just start? No, we've been live for an hour and 42 minutes.
We've been live for quite some time, folks. Cool.
What else do y'all have in the chat?
Yeah, what's up, chat? We will be wrapping this up pretty soon here. So if you guys got anything you want to say, let us know.
Everyone should buy silver. It's the most needed resource in the world. Let's see the silver price right now.
It's pushing, man. It's pushing.
Still didn't have a pretty big retracement yesterday.
Yeah. But just generally, man.
Yeah, it came pretty well right back up.
Yeah, people are talking about, oh, gold fell 5% overnight. I'm like, dude, it's up 10% in the past 2 days. Like it's gonna go back up again after that, probably. Yeah. That's a very healthy thing to see, actually.
Yeah, no kidding.
Hit that like button if you're in here and you're enjoying this. If you're enjoying this, hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already too, and turn on those notifications, because guess what? Each and every one of them is only going to be alive.
So that's very important. It's very important. I wouldn't be shocked to see these countries sign some sort of like thing where they slow or stall or change the directory of AI, at least to like how we see it. I'm sure it'll continue in the background where they continue to advance it and whatnot, but I don't know. It just seems like everyone's so scared. And like if AI actually were to take the jobs that they're insinuating that it can as quickly as it can, it'd be anarchy. Like I don't think that's in anyone's best interest to allow that to take place.
I mean, as long as they hand out the UBI checks, everything's good, though.
Yeah, I guess. But then that also starts to ask, like, got to ask a lot of questions there too. Like, where is this money coming from?
We'll ask those questions.
Yeah, fair. Yeah, I get why everyone's scared. I get why everyone's freaking out. It's a very strange time to be alive because like every generation has problems, of course, but this is such a unique thing. And also so few people are close enough to it to know what is signal versus noise, because there's so many things going on at one time. Like a lot of these AI companies are trying to keep the game going, right? To continue to get more funding because they've done a lot of circular investing, which we've done a whole episode on. So it's insane. It's also like, I don't know. I think it might just like be pop and then like reset the whole thing.
What would pop?
The AI bubble, which then in turn takes down most of the stock market besides the ones that can withstand this. And then kind of sets a floor of like, okay, this for us, how we see it, it's a tool. It's not like take over the world kind of thing. How the governments are using it behind the scenes, it kind of is a take over the world kind of thing. But for what you and I see, it ends up like the kind of shift that the internet was. And if you go back to the book that I've talked about so many times with the Almanac of Naval Ravikant, he basically had said that everyone's going to more so become forced to be an entrepreneur or a freelancer essentially. And this really expedites a lot of that. Because I think there's a lot of people that have skills that they just couldn't start a freelancing career or they couldn't start a business because they didn't have the time. Where I've seen multiple people now start businesses strictly because they had access to AI. And so it's only a matter of time until more and more of these people are like broke enough where they're like, okay, maybe I can try this. And then they're going to be, I think most people are going to be shocked by how much easier it is now. Like when I started entrepreneurship, it was still easier than it was before the internet, but it was a lot harder. Like I had to do so much more work than people have to do now. And I'm not saying like, I think most people are not going to get like rich from online entrepreneurship, but I think a lot of people will be able to replace their current income from it. And I don't know why people like, if you have any sort of idea where you want to start making money online, if you don't start moving quickly, your job's going to be harder and harder to achieve because people are going to start waking up to this day by day by day. And eventually all these people who see themselves as employees is like, oh, I can't be an entrepreneur. Entrepreneurship isn't for me. Desperate people do desperate change, or like it leads to desperate change. And so they may go to the internet and like see, wow, this actually is so much easier than when I tried this 5 years ago. And then they try.
That's it. There's going to be a constant awakening of
Yeah, I
the
think so
opportunity that's
too.
there.
And I think on like a political thing, guys, like it's all this stuff is it's so not worth getting super into all the everything's like so crazy and it doesn't help you at all if you're like super yelling at everyone all the time. Like there's just no helpful there. Like be as positive as you can, be around positive people and like I said this in our Substack the other day, but it's like if we want the world to get better, we have to forgive the flaws in others that a broken system created. And so I think so many times people are so concerned with like defaulting towards aggression or proving that they're right. It's like, dude, you may be better off just go showing that you're right. You know what I mean? Go sort your own self out.
Yeah, man.
What are you chewing on, Keith?
I'm just seeing some of these chats, and FCKU up said, you know, who would it be that would be participating in the Civil War in the United States? Like, there's no clearly defined sides. And the thing that you followed up on was exactly what came to my head. There's no, it's not going to be left versus right. It's going to be who has and who has not, or the important piece of this is who perceives someone else to have and who, because
True.
it's BS.
Yeah.
There's only so few people that actually are having, but people
It's so
will
small.
attack whoever they think
They
has.
see. Yeah, that's a very good point, Keith. Yeah, I think that's right. Like there's very few people who are like crushing it. But people like optics are very, very powerful. And I also think that the whole affiliations and deep, passionate connections to these political parties, I think it's going to diminish like month over month over month over month because there's more opportunities for the people who these people deemed heroes to just see that like they're so corrupt. Like it's in your face. Do you know what I'm saying? It's just like, how much are you going to continue to give energy to a system that is clearly not benefiting you and is clearly broken? And I think people are going to look for alternatives. And I'm hopeful that they'll find that within their own communities, within their own families, within themselves personally. Like I think a lot more people could be benefiting from a consistent meditation practice, a breathwork practice, journaling. When there's nothing but chaos around you, finding peace in yourself is quite a powerful place to start. And when you talk to people, you know who has done that and who hasn't right away.
For sure, bro. For sure, man. So yeah, and I'm, by the way, wasn't in any way, I want to clarify, not insinuating that we must go towards that type of a path where there's civil war. I don't think that that's like at all what's happening. But if there were, what we're seeing is the rising tension between just people who have and people who don't as much.
Well, I also think that people who have a lot, and we've talked about this a bunch too, they're pretty blatant about flexing when that they have what they have. And I really don't think it's reading the room very well.
Yeah.
Because, go ahead.
No, I think you're right. It's different in different parts of the world is all that came to my head, right? Like in America, we're so into it. Like living in Miami, it's like, bro, most people there are not really super well off, but there's that class of people who are, and their whole personality
is that.
Like, yeah, I have. It's like, well, Miami is a very, very safe place, right? The police is, I think they have the second largest. I think they spend as much money as New York City on police in New York, something crazy like that. And so it's safe. But and that's why those people feel like they can do that there.
Mm-hmm.
But in other parts of the United States, bro, you're not moving like that. And even in other parts of the world, right, you're not going to be moving like that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just an interesting thing to think about too, from a cultural perspective of like, why are we like that in the United States? Why is it so cool to flex on some, you know?
I like this a lot, and that's a great point, Keith. Thanks for sharing that. Oh, I lost it. We got another one coming in. There we go. The master tilt. One of the major problems is the average person doesn't even know what community is anymore. We're so individualized, we can barely connect through basic humanity anymore. That's very well said. And I also think that if we can crack the nut of decentralized social media, I really think a lot of these problems radically change pretty quickly. Because we talked about before, like, you can build in mechanisms that counteract the natural push towards maximizing viewership, right? Like, there are ways to do this. It's not simple, so people think it's impossible, when I'm certain that it is. And I think that people will be able to have more choice. Like right now, almost all the time that's spent online is spent on mostly 5-6 platforms. That's a problem. And I think that the more people try to solve that problem, the better choice you'll have. And then whoever gives the best experience. And we have a guest coming on soon where that's kind of his whole thesis, is that if you give times towards better systems, then your life can change. And then in turn, the world, hopefully, if enough people do it.
Yeah. That whole concept and that thinking is definitely resonating in my mind a lot more, which is a beautiful thing, because a lot of the issues, a lot of things can be solved in our life right now, in this digital world especially, by just turning it off.
Totally. I think analog lifestyle is becoming a far more popular thing, dude. Like, I'm seeing vintage consoles becoming back in a very major way. One of the startups that Keith and I want to start is kind of building on that. And I think that we've been sold that more by any means necessary was success. And I think we're all starting to realize that that was a massive trap that just leads to despair and hating everything. Because when you have so much, you don't really value anything. Like, I remember thinking last night about the magic that was a Christmas when you got a gift that you wanted, and how that was such a big deal as a kid, because you couldn't have anything you wanted whenever you wanted delivered to your door in a day. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think we're kind of realizing that abundance isn't what we thought it was. I think abundance in terms of freedom over your own emotional state, who you're around, the things that you think about, those are really what abundance is. And I think people are looking for that in different means. And so I think that people that spot that, I don't think that they'll come as much from the people who are currently winning, because they are so out of touch. Like, they're so far removed from like the 99%. And you see it in how they talk, how they move, everything about this. I'm like, you've never spoken to a real person in a very long time. And I saw this because I've had some of the biggest VC firms as clients, and everyone who worked there, I'm like, you guys are in a major bubble in terms of like, they only talk to people like them. And so it shapes their thoughts, their beliefs, their actions. It's like, it's different worlds, bro. But there's not as many people in there. Of course, they have all the money, but there's not that many people there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy to think like Silicon Valley being a city of people like that, you know?
It's purely that, dude. I was there for 2 months when I got a knee surgery, and then I've had the fortunate situation to like have them as clients. And so it's like, at first I'm like, am I being biased here? And then I got to meet so many of them where I'm like, no, like it's just like a different world, which makes sense, right?
100%, man.
It's so weird, dude. And we were talking about this like literally last night, about how they are kind of, I guess they're not wrong, right? Where they are actually changing the world, and it seems like they're getting the keys to do that because no one's stopping them. And so all these people really feel like they're changing the world in their work, which they are, and they're getting paid like it. But
yeah, I mean, this is, I guess, one of the biggest things about labor and capital today is that the productivity is just not going to the work. It's all going, all of the gains in society are going to the people who own stuff, right? And VCs and investors and all that. That's what they do. They own things, and when you have access to the capital, you can create. You're not creating the value as much as you're capturing it in a way.
yes.
And so because of that, you know, you've got the values of society also tilting toward, oh, well, the thing to do is to have money and to make investments and to be a controller of capital versus being someone who goes out and works hard, right?
Mhm.
Which, you know, I'm not saying that it's only a bad thing in that regard to how that changes society, but it is something that is changing, right? The
Totally.
way that we value ourselves in society.
Guys, read the book, The Almanac of Naval Ravikant, man. Like, there's certain things that we say on this channel again and again and again because it matters so much. And I was going back the other day and watching my super old YouTube videos, like my old podcast, talking like 7, 8 years ago. And I was saying the same shit I'm saying today, dude. And I lived through it, and it did change my life. So I think it's really important to do that. And also, one thing that sucks on a fundamental level is how all these massive platforms convinced everyone that everything should be free, right? When you think about the fact that you can go on YouTube and besides watching ads, it's completely free, that is crazy. And that is only possible because the real business model was data extraction. And so they trained you guys, and myself included, to like think that everything should be free. So whenever something isn't free, people fight it so much. And so like I run mobile apps, and I deliberately only make them paid because I don't want to run ads, which would basically be selling everyone's data. And so I get so much hate for that. And I'm like, you're so silly. You're so silly. Every problem that we have in here is because your money no longer has power. If seriously, if something is free, you are the product, and people don't grasp that on a fundamental level, like you're giving your life away, legit, because they'll know you better than you know yourself. Most people have not thought about why they do what they do or why they think, like, period, in their life. You don't need very many data points to build a very clear picture on how to move you. And these platforms have that, man. And so if you want to see change, put your dollars towards things and people that you believe in, and give your time to systems that you believe in. So if something comes up and you're like, this product isn't as good as YouTube, but if you think it's a better direction, you may want to settle temporarily, right? Because unless we all go to better platforms, the game can't change.
That's real, man.
It's so crazy. So many of these are connected to this. The book is just called The Almanac of Naval Ravikant. I'm trying to find it here. Did you have anything else, Keith, you want to go on?
Johan, I think, said something funny earlier. He said, this is memes and therapy pod now.
I think it kind of has to be, because everyone is so depressed, myself included, man. Like, I watch this stuff, and I'm very privileged, and I've worked really hard to have the position that I'm in, to like be set up for this kind of situation. But I still have empathy for everyone who didn't, right? Like, it's not really fair that they got thrown this. I saw this coming before most, right? But it doesn't mean that I don't feel for people who didn't. But that's also another thing too, that I think a lot of that sucks on the internet, is the people who did see it early. They're like, how did you not see this, you idiot? It's like, bro, I was trying to survive, man.
Yeah, 100%, man.
What's up?
I really got nothing.
Got nothing? Fair enough. Well, do y'all have anything else before we wrap up today, guys? We really appreciate you chilling with us. We are on Rumble, FMJ Crypto. Yeah, we are there. Pastor says, got to read some Carl Jung. Yeah, I could feel like you've read stuff like that, which is a compliment. But yeah, guys, if you have anything else you want to chop it up on, happy to discuss. And if you've yet to click subscribe, remedy that. And if you guys are in the chat and you haven't hit the like button, you could do us a big favor and hit that like button. And then the other call to action that I will continue to ask for until we get over 100 ratings is to rate us on Spotify. That link is down below. I think we're at something like 30 something now.
36 guys. We're trying to get to 100.
Trying to get to 100. That's the goal.
It takes like 5 seconds.
Seriously. Maybe a little longer, because they do make you watch some of it. But
He's always walking me back.
Put it on when you go for a walk, and then I just don't want people to get there and be like, they lied to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, fair. Fair.
What?
But I mean, if you're listening, you watch it back. Replay an episode or two, and then it won't take that long. But we would really appreciate the support on Spotify if you can give us a review over there. 5 stars. 5 stars.
So this is an interesting point. We have an apathy epidemic, not depression. So the definition of apathy is the lack of interest, enthusiasm, or concern.
I mean, I think both things are happening.
Yeah,
For sure.
I think they're kind of interconnected, but yeah, and also like all these are just words, right? Like we do our best to attach words to feelings, but they all started from a point too. It's also like words are so powerful because the words create the feeling that's connected to them. That's why they always say like spells is magic, right? Because it is very powerful, and so that you should definitely be thinking about these things for sure.
Somebody said, less market talk, more meme talk, please. And I actually forgot to share the couple of memes that I had for the day.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
let
put
me
it up,
pull those real quick. Nothing too crazy. When you were right about the currency debasement and bought Bitcoin instead of gold, silver, or copper. And I won't play the audio just because I don't know.
Yeah, if it's copywritten.
Yeah.
Start crying. It does feel like that, bro.
100%, man. 100%.
But guys, historically, these are the time, like Kyle said, and I know we sound like broken records here, which I totally understand. But if you study any sort of markets, like you want to be in the places where everyone's saying, "Oh, don't bother with it," right? And things can change so damn quickly, guys. Like you're like so quickly because yes, gold and silver are going crazy, but retail isn't buying gold and silver that much. Like, of course they are, but a lot of people don't even know how to go acquire gold and silver. Where I do think that genuinely crypto is a easier on-ramp for a lot of people because they look at gold or silver and they say, I'll never get rich from this. Right? There's a lot of capital out there that like people want to take a moonshot with. And I actually had my buddy when I was in Florida, like he's asking, he's like, if you had to throw some money into something that is like very speculative, but could potentially change my life, like, could you put a list together for me? And I'm like, I don't feel comfortable doing that. But if you want me to tell you some things that like will probably light your money on fire, but could do that, like there's an appetite for that. Is what I'm saying, right? Whereas everyone who knows that gold and silver will never do that. And I also think that we've talked about this before too, but everyone is a sound box now, or like they're like a parrot on social media. So many people make their money chasing views. And so if they can make money and then talk about it and then make more money from it, they're going to do it so fast. Like think about how loud XRP will get if it goes up like 3-4x. You won't be able to go on the internet without hearing about it 40 times. And so and that'll happen on every community. Like this can snowball very, very quickly. Everybody is poor, but there's always access to more money if people have the conviction behind it. So I think that it'll change I'm not saying it'll happen soon, but I'm saying when it does happen, I think it'll be very swift and very aggressive because people are so pushed against a corner where they're looking for some sort of beacon of hope. And if they think this is this, then I think they'll move very quickly because like a lot of people who didn't touch crypto last cycle, it's because they thought it was a scam, right? Where now when they realize everything's a scam, what's the difference?
The only thing that matters is the number going up at that point. So I want to also point out that like, I didn't think about the idea that, so I had someone in my community asking how to buy gold. And I was like,
it's not that simple.
It's really not. Like you really do have to think about how do you get access to buying gold. You can try to buy physical gold.
Yes.
But that's probably not what people are going to do.
Yeah.
And the premiums you're going to pay on that are insane. So then I was like, I mean, you have to buy a gold ETF, but like people don't know what ETFs are. People don't like, you know what I mean? So it's like definitely much higher barrier to entry, especially for a younger person compared to just downloading Coinbase.
Yes.
Right.
And I think that the fact that if people start seeing Bitcoin as anti-establishment, I think people get behind that in a very big way. And it's ironic because they're going to be holding it on an exchange, but like they'll still see it as like sticking it to the man to a degree, even though it could be the complete opposite of what that is. But the optics of it is very big deal. And I actually want to talk about this a lot. So Pokemon is being sold by Logan for, I think he meant 20 mil. Is that what it was? Because he's selling some sort of card or for like a ton of money. And I'm telling you, man, last time before things went crazy, we had NFT Mania. It was like 4 to 6 months before. I couldn't stop seeing Pokemon cards in my timeline, and I don't watch a lot of Pokemon content. And now the same thing is happening again. And the market, if everyone's saying that people don't have money, go look into the Pokemon scene. People got money. They do, bro. Like obviously, I'm not saying everyone, but like there's definitely access to money when people aren't scared. Like what happens what creates recessions is not necessarily the fact that things are so bad. It's people believing that they're so bad and their behavior then changes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The opposite can be true too, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. For sure.
But yeah, Pokemon's crazy, man. People are spending like tens of thousands of dollars buying these packs and shit. Like imagine, let's say Pokemon goes and launches an official like NFT collection or something like that. I think they did something recently like that where they had some sort of game mechanic where there was collectability, but it was a digital collectible. If they put something on chain, I think that would go crazy. Yeah, that's very true too, right? We still have sporting events and festivals constantly. Yes,
Right.
so and the prices of those things have become insane, dude. Like I live in Toronto, and the pricing for a concert ticket is ridiculous. Like that's one of the most predatory industries in the world, man. Like,
You were talking about this because there's like something in Canada, I think, where you guys are like helping to fix the price gouging nature of it all, or maybe not addressing it is what it was.
I think some people are trying to establish rules for slowing down or suppressing the aftermarket, because what these people do is that they either know someone on the inside or they have like bots that snipe them really quickly, and then instantly on the aftermarket they're like 4x the price. So to go see like a mediocre concert is going to cost you like $150.
And
Is-
my first reaction to that was, well, if that's what people are willing to pay, then why wouldn't that be okay? But
Yeah,
your thing was like, but there's an amount of people who won't, the stadium won't fill up,
Mhm.
right? So there is not an actual natural demand for that, because there's only some people that actually will be able to afford the tickets at those prices. I think is what we came
Yeah.
to there.
It's also just incredibly predatory, right? Where so few people are benefiting from it. So yeah, you could say that the natural market price is this, but that's really only out of necessity. And I also think people took advantage of what a concert became, right? Because a concert wasn't just about going and experiencing it anymore. People are paying a premium to be the person who's there and posting about it too, right? Because then they also get social attention from it as well. And then John says, he's making fun of me for saying, we go into a recession because we're scared of a recession. Like people take everything so damn literally. I'm saying it's the change in behavior that comes from fear. Like what causes a bank run, mate? Is people thinking there's not enough money, so they go and pull out their money all at the same time. What actually created that is the perception that then led to the action, is what I'm saying.
It can accelerate and exacerbate the conditions in the economy for sure, and what impact the businesses, right, have to take based upon what the public perception is.
One of my most frustrating things about talking online is how many people make assumptions about what's going on in my brain.
Well, they can only work off of what you're saying, so that's what he took away, and
So why not ask a question?
and now you had to clap back.
Why not ask a question? Right? Like the amount of times people are like, "No, you were thinking like this." It's like, mate, are you in here? Like, what do you mean? And also, like everyone assumes that like we're coming to the table with the same level of prior context, which is such a silly thing to do.
Very true. Very true. Yeah, I think being inquisitive is something that hopefully in real life we do a lot more than we do online. But that's always the approach to take, right? Is asking a question. That's a really good point.
Yeah, I said mate. I love mate. That's a
because some people do that. Like some people, like I made a post last night where I said something that was just wrong, and he was like, "Did you mean this?" And I was like, "Oh,
bro,
yeah, you're right."
Questions are a great opportunity to explain where you're coming from, but assumptions on somebody else's logic, I think, is silly. That happens all the time.
Yeah. Mate. He says buddy all the time too. I always make fun of Ben for saying buddy. There's like this thing where if you call someone buddy, it's pretty derogatory, right? So I always make fun of him because it's just a part of his typical vernacular.
People are so sensitive, man.
Let me pull up the other meme I had real quick.
Yeah, go for it.
It's not even really all that much of a meme, but consultants be like, have you tried lowering costs and increasing revenue? And I just thought that was pretty good. It's kind of like Chase passive income kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like,
you got to think that the whole consulting industry's got to be pretty well cooked.
Yeah.
It was already bullshit though. Like I remember I had told the story briefly, I think on this pod, where I saw this guy at a party, like I want to say 4 or 5 months ago. And he's like, I work in consulting. And I'm like, say, so what do you actually do? And then he gave me like a 2 or 3 minute response of saying nothing. And I was like, okay.
Let's OMG, yes. Don't call me buddy.
Why not? You can call me buddy. I don't care.
I called Ben out once because he used it in one of our notes in a way that was kind of derogatory, and I was like, "Hey, man, I think that was a different kind of buddy."
I don't know. I think people looking to get pissed. If I ever call anyone buddy, actually, you'll know if I'm saying it in a derogatory way. I think I didn't even try to say it in a derogatory way to you.
Nah, I'm just fooling, man.
Get Michael Saylor in here. Probably at some point. He's a very polarizing guy. Like a lot of people either love or hate him. Whatever you say, buddy. We're getting it right back. You take it all so easy. Like, don't be worried about the economy, but the economy isn't looking good, buddy.
Yeah.
When did I ever say, don't be worried about the economy? I didn't say that. I said, I don't think it'll end up as bad as everyone thinks is all I said. And yeah, the economy does look horrendous, but at the end of the day, you could get obsessed with how bad it is, or you try to index in terms of helping your situation, buddy. I'm not your buddy, guy. I'm not your guy, friend. I'm not your friend, pal. That's from South Park.
Andrew said, it's pal to you.
Pal. All right, pal. It's vexing, bro. Vexing, that means getting pissed, right? There's so many words, man.
No, actually.
It's hard to keep up. Vexing, causing annoyance, frustration, or worry.
It's kind of a lot in one word.
Mm-hmm.
Annoyance, frustration, or worry is like, those are very different.
This is good. It's good by Zach. Plus points for adding a back pat after saying buddy. Now that's belittling for sure. All right, buddy. That's awesome. But yeah, no, you guys are all awesome. I appreciate it. But we definitely want to continue like conversations. Like I think a lot of people make assumptions, and that's a little silly. But vexing is more like confused. This is just going off of what Google says. Google lies all the time, man.
No,
but,
he said I was wrong after that, and then they were thinking perplexed.
Perplexed. Perplexed means confused, no?
Yeah, that's what they were saying. They got the words mixed up.
Completely baffled or very puzzled. Man, I was asking some questions to ChatGPT the other day. It's crazy how much they'll just lie.
Mm-hmm.
Like I asked, I'm like, was so-and-so involved with this group? And then they're like, nope, there's no evidence. And then I went to Google. There was clear evidence on page 1.
Yeah, well, because ChatGPT also has a problem where it doesn't know anything that happened over the past 5 years, even though it's only been around for the past 5 years. It only like goes back in history, like textbook level history.
Seriously?
So I always, I thought that they would have fixed this by now, but it just like, it does not know what's actually going on in the world. I was asking it last night about the government shutdown, and like, obviously it doesn't know, but even the most recent government shutdown, it still doesn't know. It was like, no, that wasn't the longest shutdown ever in history. It's like, well, it definitely was. And even past couple of years, I think it really doesn't know what's happened.
That's insane to me. I thought it was scraping the most recent information.
No, because it'll sometimes it'll say like looking for the news, but
it's so confident when it lies, man. Like, I wish I walked through the world with the conviction that ChatGPT does. And then as soon as you say it's wrong, it's like, you're right. It's like, well, which one is it, dude?
Yeah, man. So
I
always use multiple.
You should always do that. Is Grok any better with real-time information?
It's way better.
I assume so.
Yeah, Perplexity and Grok are real-time joints.
Got it.
They usually, I mean, I never find issues with using them for that. Grok, I'm like less sure about, just because I don't know, I haven't used it as much as Perplexity. Mm-hmm. But it's pretty cool how Perplexity and Grok are on point. Because Twitter also knows what's on Twitter, and that's what I love. Because there's deep insights on Twitter. Right, Perplexity doesn't have that. It just has like whatever's on Google for the most part. But Grok knows like that guy that's in his basement doing like crazy research on what's happening in the silver market, and they'll give you some of that stuff if it's being replicated by others as well. Yeah,
I'd be so curious to determine how they assign merit to content, because there's so much bullshit posting too.
For sure. So it gives you the sources, and you can click and see who the people are. But I don't know yet how it does that.
Interesting. Awesome. Well, guys, we got an awesome guest coming on Thursday.
Yeah.
It's someone who's been requested before. It's if you watch Keith's content, you probably watch this guy's content. So you definitely want to show up on Thursday. Yeah, we'll be live at 12 p.m. EST.
I put it in my video today. So if you don't
you did?
show up, yeah.
Cool. So it's not a secret.
No, it's not a secret.
Cool. So yeah, it's Clive Thompson. He'll be coming on, which is going to be awesome. We're going to be talking about monies, them potentially resetting your money, a money reset, and he does one of the best jobs on the internet, in my opinion, in terms of describing how this stuff happens over history. Because a lot of these things we say they're unprecedented, but if you're going back far enough, they're not. And so he does a pretty good job of explaining a lot of that. So definitely go show him some love if you probably already watched stuff, but definitely tune in live on Thursday. Go ahead, Keith.
Yeah, it's cool to see how like YouTube right now it's a lot of people are like, oh, I'm old and I can't do this YouTube thing or whatever. I don't want to. And it's like, actually, you have a unique window being a little bit more mature because first off, you just have a unique perspective to offer the world, period.
Yeah, totally.
And that's what YouTube understands. And people understand that. So they see this guy talking about these topics. He's got little grays on his hair. Like they know this guy might actually know what the heck he's talking about.
Totally. Yeah. And also with all this AI content, it's really pushed people towards a desire for real humans. And so simpler thumbnails are now doing very well. So there's less of the equation that you have to sort out. Like before, you used to need a banger title and a thumbnail that needed to be fully designed. Now it's like almost all the title because what's up?
It's just wild. Like Silver 113, the Great Melt Up, and hundreds of thousands of views on Clive's videos.
Yes. And whereas before, to get that, you would have needed like a far more compelling angle in terms of like the thumbnail. And now you can just have a picture of you. And if your content is actually good and it's a good topic and you've titled it well, you can get a ton of views. So it's made things a lot easier if you actually have things to say.
100%, man.
Dalio warns the USD is fading and the EU-India deal is shifting power east. Are we just ignoring total global reshuffle? Ignore, be positive, buddies. LOL, sorry. When did I say ignore it? What are you talking about?
He's just being funny, man. Don't be offended.
I'm not offended. I'm confused.
That's cool.
Yeah, Dalio's been calling this for a very long time. I actually have his book where he talks about all of this. Right, I think right here. Oh no, this is the wrong one.
Got a few of them. He's got a few good ones. But yeah, Red Dalio was talking that stuff. Charles Hoskinson type of thumbnail. Yeah, exactly.
But Charles gets his title so wrong. Like
Facts.
When we eventually have him on, I'm gonna literally say to him, "Hey mate, like let me help you with your thumbnails or your titles for like 6 months. You'll probably double your audience." Keith, keep the park thumbnails. Yeah. Hopefully the weather will chill for him, or I guess not chill, warm up for him, so he can go back outside.
Yeah, it'll be soon. It'll just be cold. It'll be cold, but there won't be like pure ice on the ground. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it's gnarly. We got so much snow on Saturday. Here it was crazy. My cars got buried pretty much.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, man. It's not fun here. It's not fun. But
that was something I saw too. Dang, I wish I saved it. It was about Canada, and it was like, why would you live here?
It's not a choice.
No, I know, but it
was born here.
Meant to be a joke.
We should talk about in the future episode the whole beef we got going on between us and you guys. That could be a whole different episode.
Yeah. I was like, who was beefing? But yeah,
Canada and America.
Mark Carney and Trump going at it. Mark Carney's an incredible performer.
Yeah, he's a great speaker. He's also like he's very smart, which is either amazing or horrible. It depends on if you align with his view of the world, because he's probably going to make it happen.
Very real, man.
Well, should we wrap it up here?
Negative 41 degrees Celsius in Canada. My goodness. Yeah, man. If you want access to our newsletter, we're dropping that twice a week.
sir.
memesandmarkets.com to get access to our newsletter. Ben has been putting out some really cool pieces on there. And I learned that on Substack, he told me that you can actually listen to it over there as well. So that's really, really helpful. And that was
Super
awesome.
cool. Yeah, it makes almost like a little podcast. So honestly, guys, if you want to think about where you should spend more of your time, Substack is one of the places where I feel like it's way better than being on Instagram or TikTok, because there's not as much of that rage bait stuff, because you can't get an instant reaction. Like, you actually have to stop, listen to it, or read it. And so there's not as much incentive to go super crazy all the time. And someone said Canada will be absorbed by USA within 5 years. Yeah, I don't know. It'll be super interesting to see. Canadians absolutely hate Trump. Like, they hate him so much. And so whenever those talks are being done with Trump at the helm, like, I can't see Canadians ever being for that. But I think if you guys had a different president that was pushing that move, maybe. But it'll probably start with you guys, like, either taking or like helping Alberta get their own independence. And then from there, Trump will probably be like, oh, see, like, we got to save them. You know what I mean? And then use that as a means. Keith might look into Edgar Casey's work. He has made so many predictions that are unfolding now. Is the Dark Journalist? Is that a channel? I've never heard of that one. Dark. Alberta will be gone in 5 years. That I would not be shocked to see. They are carrying so much of the weight of our country's economy. So I get why they're super frustrated to a degree. But realistically, like, the biggest sells for Canada being taken or merging with America, they're almost like purely economic. And the more that I was thinking about it, I'm like, if we actually did get merged, probably be pretty bad for Canadians.
If Canada merged with the US?
Yes.
Why?
Because
I guess we should have a whole
episode
about this.
Yeah, we'll save it for a whole other episode. But I've thought about this pretty in depth, because some people are so against it. And the more that I think about it, I can understand why they would be. Yeah, so we'll do a whole other episode. But I'm trying to find that channel.
The Edgar Casey?
Yeah.
Oh, he's someone who's long gone. From what I understand, he was 1945 was when he passed away. He was an American clairvoyant who reported and chronicled an ability to diagnose diseases and would recommend treatments for ailments while asleep.
Interesting. Beautiful painting.
Oh, thanks, guys. Yeah,
it is a beautiful painting.
Someone asked if I did that myself. No, I did not.
Are you artistic with anything besides music, or is that like your?
No, man, just the music. Yeah.
Sweet, awesome. Well, we appreciate all y'all being here. Once again, we'll spam you with a request once more. If you've yet to click the subscribe button, go ahead and do so, and turn on notifications so we can have you in here, so that you can come in and contribute. Some of my favorite parts are really at the end of the episodes, when we get to chop it up with all of y'all. So we appreciate all of you being in here. And I personally love, like, just discussion, man. Like, even when people don't agree with me, like, I honestly like that a lot, because it gives me the opportunity to see, like, am I off base with this? And sometimes you can only really do that when someone's coming at it from a different lens. And so if you want more dialogue to happen, I think framing your statements in questions is a far better way to get the outcome that you want. And a lot of times people get, so if you, this happens to real life too, right? If you go up to someone and they're saying they're a point, and you go instantly, yo, you're wrong, they go on edge and the conversation is over. Whereas if you frame it in the form of a question, being like, why did you get to there? Or like, can I ask you something? Or like, can I play devil's advocate here? Like, could you see it like this? They're gonna be far more receptive to taking that, and you'll probably learn more from it as well.
100%. Most people won't be able to. That's just gonna lead to arguments and
totally.
Fights.
Yeah, a lot of people have their whole identity wrapped up in these different things. Who don't agree with you is one of the key. Yeah, I think this is one of the most important things, and we don't really have that right now because everyone's in an echo chamber. If you guys want to see my most recent Substack, it's about this whole concept. Like, it's literally the whole thing is it's about. So yeah, I appreciate all you guys, and definitely try to bridge conversations and even teach people how to have better conversations, because it's so far removed from so many things, especially in the younger generation, man. Like, they really missed that, which makes me sad. But it's not something like, it's not like it can't be taught or learned. And so I think that we all play a small part in that. But that's all from me, Keith. Do you have anything else you want to add in?
No, I just love you guys in the chat. Yep, you guys are awesome. And
very well said.
Very soon.
Willem, what did I miss? What did I get wrong? Or how could I be looking at this differently? Yeah, it's super fair. Super, super fair. And I think it's not saying that you should be like flippy floppy to take every opinion, but I think seeing every opinion is very, very valuable.
You know where that's coming from, right?
What's that?
That's what I say at the end of all of my videos.
Is it
So I
really?
think they're quoting me there. Yeah, that's exactly my
You say that in literally every one?
every single video.
That's awesome. I think it in a few. I didn't know it was like a recurring thing.
No, it's because people, man. I'm like, look, if I say this,
True.
then
That's smart.
you can
Very
leave
smart,
it
very
there
smart.
and leave it the right way. And people do. They
Yeah.
do actually say, hey, this is what I think you missed. And that's awesome. Like,
That's great.
awesome.
No, because we're all missing so much, myself included. I blame Twitter. Every conversation is just trying to dunk on someone. Yeah, especially when they started paying people for impressions on Twitter, it definitely became a lot more of that. But we appreciate all y'all being here. We'll be live again on Thursday, like we said. So definitely tune in then, and hope you guys all have a fantastic few days. And we will see all of you guys on Thursday.
Peace.
Bye-bye, guys.